All right, thank you very much for staying tuned. I remember where I was at the time. Um, it is well. Where was I? Where was I? Umbo. Obaderemi, yes. Thank you very much, Malnutrition. Ah, this is actually good. Thank you for even remember. In fact, what you just said right now, checking more the exact place that's my parents. Umbo, if I check Cotton Shell on YouTube, and then we can get right into it. Just give me about a minute, and then we can get into it. You're gonna like this. There's a video I've never played it here before, but it shows you another angle to this conversation, and it's important to mention it. Just done. Oh, fantastic. We're good. All right. Those of us joining on YouTube, please like the live, kindly share. I apologize for the break. What happened now was due to technical issues, but we're good now to the end of today's session. And what happened the other day also has been sorted, so we're good. What was I saying? In 1930, Obadesoja Aderemi was crowned the Oni of Ife, and he was king up until 1980. So he was king for 50 years. While he was king, the House of Chiefs was established first they started with the Conference of Chiefs in 1937. And of course, the Oni, was the chairman of the Council of Chiefs in Yoruba land, Yoruba Council of Chiefs. This is not even about Western region. There was no Western region. Okay, in 37. Then later on, they created the House of Chiefs, right? Something similar to the House of Lords that they have in England. Now, with the House of Chiefs, the Oni eventually, of course, became the permanent chairman of the House of Chiefs. And then in 1967, the Western region was broken. 63 was broken into two. You had the Western region and the Midwest. 1 second. You had the Western region and the Midwest. Obadesoja Aderemi the Oni of Ife was also the permanent chairman of the Western region. After the Midwest, before the Midwest was taken out of the Western region, it was the chairman. After the Midwest was broken off, he remained the chairman of the Western region of the House of Chiefs, or the Kings in Western region, permanent chairman. 1967, Lagos was cut off from the Western region. He still remained the permanent, the permanent chairman. 1976, the Western state was then divided. So we had Western region and we had Western state when Lagos State was created. So we had Lagos State, Western State, Midwest State in 67. Then in 76, the Western state was further divided into three. We now had Ogun State, Oyo State, and Ondo State. The permanent chairman of the Kings in Oyo State was still the Oni. All the way to 1980. Then Baba Waja, he passed on, and then we now had a different king. That's Oba Okwade, who became Oni in 1980. And then the tussle began. Now, before I go on, let me first say this. In Yoruba history, we don't have records of any Alaafin speaking against the Oni. We have records, for instance, of a prince who misbehaved before he became the Oni. That's the Aole. But he didn't do what he did as the prince. All right, and what he did caused a lot of wala that led to war. But that's not today's conversation. But we don't really have Alaafins. Once they become king, they don't get into this thing of supremacy or part or so. And to make matters very clear, whatever Oyo became, it became in the 1600s. And whatever it became, it stopped becoming in the 1800s. The reign of Oyo as an empire was for 200 years, which is a lot. But the reign of Ife as an empire was for 400 years, which is even much more. And that was from the 11th century to the 15th century. That's one. Number two, the cities and kingdoms that went out of Ife. One of them happens to be Oyo itself. So the idea that people, something's distracting me. Give me a second, please. So we don't have situations where the king, the Alaafin, would speak against Kabesi, speak against the Oni and say, "Oh, we have part also." And Oyo, the royalty of Oyo, is a product of Ife. So all these things that they're even doing is nauseating to start with. So nobody really gets into the stuff. When the issue of part also began was actually in the 1980s, from the foundation of Yoruba as a people. When kings say, "Oh, Mojue," because number one, do you even see the Oni that you want to tell that you are bigger than? The first time anybody saw Oni outside Ife was in 1903. If you read this book, 201 Gods, A City of 201 Gods by Jacob Olukbono, you read about the episode that happened when the Elepe and the Akarigbo, the Elepe was wanted to be crowned, and then the Akarigbo said it couldn't be crowned because that crown was not from Ife. And Akarigbo, who is Thomas Shagam, they traced, they are Remo people, they traced their ancestry to Iremo quarters in Ife. And so they were telling the Elepe that he couldn't become king. All this thing went all the way to Governor MacGregor, and finally they were able to they had to get the Oni to come and settle the matter. And for that to happen, many things were done. From town to town, there were sacrifices. And all the kings in Yoruba land vacated their palaces, not the throne, their palaces. You know what? I think we should start from there. Again, this is not to even say, this is not to say this is where legitimacy is coming from. It's just to explain that Shebi and Toba you are so come Joelo abo Jumilo o ri. I read the other when we're discussing this whole Benin thing, I remember reading the other time that whenever a king passes in Benin, regardless of whatever they're doing right now, this is history. Whenever a king passes in Benin, or at least back in the day, they will send an emissary to travel all the way to Ife, right? Toba Defe will come and tell them what has happened. Maybe they have chosen a new king and so on and so forth. He will now collect a bronze mask from Ife. But before collecting that bronze mask, he has to know if the Oni favors, if the Oni is favorably disposed to the news that he brought. And the only way he would know was to see the Oni's foot. No one will see his face. There was a curtain parting him from the people. So, tí Oni bá ṣí aṣọ tó bá fẹsẹ̀ hàn, that's the good news for the emissary from Benin. Omi pé, ó túmọ̀ sí wípé, the Kabesi, that's the Oni, is favorably disposed to whatever they have done in Benin. And they will now give him, bronze mask and stuff like that. They will not take away. But we're not talking about Benin today. The point I'm just trying to make is that you couldn't even see him. And if you couldn't see him, there's no way on earth you'll be dragging superiority with him. And Tobari, Rojo, one. The first time that order changed was in 1903, when we had Obalubishe the first, Adelekon. After him was Obade Sojaderemi that I'm talking about, that became king in 1930. So I'm going to get you that book and read something to you. I want to read what happened in 1903. Like I always say, without this, I mean, there are many things that happened, but what I'm trying to do is to tell you that. Umbo, 1 second. What I'm trying to tell you is that the person you couldn't see, you could even be dragging supremacy with, because number one, he's not someone that you can easily find around. So in the 1800s, I think I said this the other day, when Henry Higgins visited Oyo, the Alaafin, man, there are many things I'm saying at the same time. Give me a second. I'll open that one as well. I'll start. Let's take it date by date. Thank you for joining us on YouTube. Thank you for coming back in. I'm glad you're here. We're gonna have a great time together. Fine. I've seen that 1903. Let me look for what happened in 1886. Number. If you taking it Daru, in fact, you listen to it, and Ober Sidaru in the 1980s. We're going to get there. You're going to listen to something. You're going to listen to an interview. Let me tell you what it is right now, so that let's keep that one in the cooler. Let's take it one step and then the other. Found it. Okay. So let's start with this one. Yeah, I was right. 1886. In 1886, British agents visiting the Yoruba interior. I'm reading a book called A History of the Yoruba People by Stephen Banji Akintoye. In 1886, British agents visiting the Yoruba interior were told by the Alaafin of Oyo that the Ifes were the fathers of all, and all people came from Ife. That the chiefs of Ife at the Soya, where they and their people were camped outside the ruins of their city, that the Ife people were the fathers of all tribes, and that if they continued longer in a camp and unable to resettle their ancient city of Ile-Ife, the whole world would spoil, as they were the priests of the deities who ruled the world. And by the Seriki of the Jebu, Chief Ogunsigun, that even the English king can be shown the spot at Ile-Ife from where his ancestors went out. Henry Higgins, the leading British agent in this 1886 mission, summed up his information about Ife as follows. There are all manner of legends as to the wonder to be... I'll take that again. There are all manner of legends as to the wonders to be seen at Ile-Ife. The Ifes call themselves the conservators of the world and the oldest of mankind, and boast that all crowned personages in the world, including the white man's sovereign, went out originally from Ile-Ife. And it was curious the deference with which other tribes treat them. Other tribes mean other Yoruba tribes. It was curious, and other people generally. But when they say other tribes, they're not talking about Nigerian tribes and the way we use tribes now. It was curious the deference with which other tribes treat them, although they were at war with them. And as everyone was supposed to be a descendant of the Ife, they looked upon all strangers who visited their town in the light of pilgrims who came, as they put it, to make their house good. That is to pay reverence to departed ancestors. Here's the point. The lowest that Ife got was in the 1800s. In the 1880s, when there was war. There was not supposed to be a war, no attacks on Ife, but like I said, it's not today's topic. And I've said that a number of times, not to the topic, because I don't want to change into that. They're not supposed to fight Ife, but they fought, and parts of Ife was in ruins. Different parts of Ife were in ruins at the time. So that was Ife at its lowest. Not at its highest, not at its peak, not at its zenith, at its lowest. The Alaafin said they cannot remain in the camp Because if they remain in the camp for longer than they have remained there, and the city remains in ruins, the old world will spoil. This was in 1886. So I'm telling you that even when things were don't think on budget, where you be like, you can disrespect them. That even then, they were not. This man said even when they were fighting war with them, they still had this reverence and deference with which they treated Ife. So here's the question: if they did that at Ife's worst, what do you think they did at Ife's best? Let me read one of the things that happened after this 1886 episode. I'm going to read from a book called I'm going to read from City of 201 Gods, Ile-Ife in Time, Space, and the Imagination by Jacob Olupono. In the history of Ile-Ife, 1903 was an earth-shattering year for the Yoruba people. It was the year that the Ooni, the god king of the Yoruba, encountered directly the full impact of British modern colonial rule, from the perspective of the Ooni and from the perspective of the colonial governor in Lagos. I'll take that again. I'm going to start all over again. Something is up with the light. Is it blinking? Is it going off and on? Yeah. Please give me a second. I'm getting distracted by this thing, and it's not worth it. It's worth it. Any small thing can distract me. Just give me 5 seconds. Wait, a moment. Let me not say 5 seconds. Just give me a moment, please. Just very quickly. Let me sort this thing so that we can have consistency. Just give you a moment because I know someone like you will be there to count. But thank you very much. I hope I didn't stay too long. All right. So let's read this. This is City of 200 is in the history of Ile-Ife. 1903 was an earth-shattering year for the Yoruba people. It was the year that the Ooni, the god king of the Yoruba, encountered directly the full impact of British modern colonial rule. From the perspective of the Ooni and from the perspective of the colonial governor in Lagos, the year ended the preceding era and opened a new investiture for Ile-Ife city and the Yoruba states of southwestern Nigeria. Although the governor, Sir William McGregor, referred cursorily to the occasion as the Great Crown Case, to Ooni Adelekun Olubuse I, 1894 to 1910, and to the Yoruba people, it was a precedent-setting great journey because it marked the first time in the history of Ile-Ife that an Ooni would venture out of his palace and beyond the center of the universe. For Westerners, the occasion would have been tantamount to asking God to leave heaven to answer the call of a mere mortal. The Ooni traveled to Lagos, then the center of British regional administration for the Yoruba. I'll take that again. The Ooni traveled to Lagos, the then center of British regional administration. For the Yoruba, news of the unprecedented journey provoked fear, anxiety, and uncertainty because it was a great taboo for the Ooni to vacate the sacred city of Ile-Ife. to travel to another seat of power, however that power might be defined. Therefore, symbolically, the journey of the Ooni signified the capitulation of tradition to modernity and of religious authority to secular authority. However, the events for which the Ooni was invited to Lagos were as remarkable as the journey itself, for they symbolized the colonial government's attempt to impose traditional rule as a mechanism of the British indirect rule system. I'm going to jump some things because of time. Let me read the letter that was sent to the Kabiyesi in 1902 first, and we'll read the other things. The British attempted to manipulate the Yoruba. The Yoruba simultaneously attempted to manipulate the British under the auspices of acceding to colonial rule and legitimacy. Okay, yeah. In a letter dated April 18, 1902, the governor of Lagos ordered the clerk of the Central Native Authority in Lagos to write to the Ooni, asking that the Ooni provide at his earliest convenience a list of obas and chiefs who have the right to wear the crowns originally when leaving Ife. The governor sent the request because of a dispute between the Elekpe of Ekpe, a town in Shagamu district, and the Akarigbo of Shagamu, now in Ijebu-Remo, over who had the right to wear the sacred beaded crown that originated in Ile-Ife, and thus the legitimacy to rule. Akarigbo of Shagamu claimed primacy over the entire Ijebu-Remo district and refuted the right of the Elekpe of Ekpe to wear the crown. Although the Ooni compiled and sent to the colonial office in Lagos a handwritten list of about 44 titles, the governor invited Ooni to visit Lagos to help resolve the dispute over which the two Oba was sovereign. In 1903, but this thing is long. I'm trying to find short one more. You know what? Let's just keep reading. I think it's lovely. In 1903, the importance of the Ooni's visit was the ancient authority of Ile-Ife as the sacred center were underscored in the governor's note to him. Quote, this is what the governor wrote. As the question is engaging presently the attention of the Central Native Council and to enable them to arrive at a definite conclusion in the matter, it is important that they be placed in possession of your report on this important question as the recognized head of Yoruba land. That's the letter that MacGregor wrote to the Ooni Adelekun in 1902. For those who are using British as the beginning of history, by the way, we're not starting with British, we're just trying to make a point. He says, I'm going to read again what the governor said. As the question is engaging presently the attention of the Central Native Council and to enable them to arrive at a definite conclusion in the matter, it is important that they be placed in possession of your report on this important question as the recognized head of Yoruba land, who has the right of issuing crowns. So he said they should make that thing available at an early date. In describing his journey to Lagos, the Ooni emphasized only religious and political aspects of the trip, although he observed great apprehension in the people of Ile-Ife, indeed, in the people throughout the entire land of the Yoruba. Many of his subjects accompanied him to the distant river Ashejire that forms the boundary between Ile-Ife and the land of the Ibadan people, and many vowed to remain there until he returned unharmed to Ile-Ife. All across the land, listen to this, please. Pay attention, everyone. I'm reading City of 201 Gods, Ile-Ife in Time, Space, and Imagination by Jacob Olupono. All across the land, including the region of the Alaafin of Oyo, the Ooni observed that the Yoruba Oba began to vacate their thrones. Astonishingly, they remained outside the gates of their cities. I'll take that again. All across the land, including the region of the Alaafin of Oyo, the Ooni observed that the Yoruba Oba began to vacate their thrones. Astonishingly, they remained outside the gates of their cities, waiting until the Ooni's safe return. A time of great dread fell upon the land as the Oba feared that the Ooni's departure could bring devastation. Clearly, the Yoruba held their Ooni in great esteem. The British governor confirmed that he had received a telegram from the Alake of Abeokuta, one of the principal Oba in Yoruba land, inquiring about the time that the Ooni would return home so that the Alake could meet him outside the walls of Abeokuta in order to pay his respects to the Ooni to ensure a successful journey to Lagos. The Ooni performed sacrifices all along the journey. Accompanied by a large entourage of wives, musicians, chiefs, and servants, the Ooni arrived in Lagos on February 23, 1903. He was lodged at Tinubu Square, and he held his first meeting with the governor MacGregor on February 24. The historic meeting between the governor and the Oni indicated that both were exploring mutual benefit. We're going to stop here for we told you what happened in 18. Another time we'll talk. Okay, no, let's start this way. From the word go, the place called Oyo, the kingdom that we now call Oyo Kingdom, not even this one, the original one, was founded by the grandson of Odudua. That's the beginning. So whether there was a British colonization or not, that's the history. Our history did not begin with British incursion into Yoruba land. Oromiyan was the grandson of Odudua, who traveled to Benin, gave birth to Eweka, who became the Oba of Benin, whose descendants are still the kings of Benin, then traveled to Oyo and created the kingdom in Oyo by putting together all the settlements and then becoming their first king, before returning to Ife, where he eventually became the Oni. That's the beginning of Oyo as a city-state. Okay? Now, from then on, nobody had anybody talking anyhow about anybody. So I'm going to jump from there all the way to the 1800s. So all this while, if you had become, oh dear, 1 second. 1 second. This thing is not helping me. I know what the issue is. What? I apologize, please. Hopefully, I won't be distracted by that again. Where will we? So the very foundation tells you that the grandson of Ozua created the kingdom, which is Oyo. That's the first thing. And the political system that they used in Oyo is the exact same system that started in Ife. Whether it was the structure of the king, of the king's cabinet, the political structure of the whole place, the idea of the Warefa, becoming like your Messi in Ife, in the way he organized his cabinet, the place of the judiciary, the place of the Ogboni, all those things were a copy of the model in Ife, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're somebody's son, and you went somewhere, and you replicate what you have at home, there's no sin in that. You have a right to it. So this is not a jab. It's just the fact. Okay. So it was essentially, and it wasn't the only one that did it. Romeo did it in Oyo. Ogufuminire did it in Eko, in Isheri. Then that spread all the way to Eko. Obanta did it in Ijebu. It was replicated in different parts. Okay. Now, so there's always that respect for Ife. I'm going to jump many centuries, because to be honest, in those centuries, there's no record of anybody insulting Ife and saying Kinikon. Even when Ife stopped being powerful in terms of economy, it still had cultural and religious supremacy, so to speak. So in Kotife, there was economy, there was politics, there was culture, and there was religion. Those were the four main things. And that's why when people say that Ife is the spiritual capital, I get what they are saying, but it is just one of the things that makes Ife a home to all of us. The shrine is not your home. Ife houses all the primary gods of Yoruba land. But that does not mean that that's all it is, or that's all it's... the ascendancy that Ife, again, and we're going to do a series on this in January by the grace of God, you will see economic power, you see political power, you will see religious power, and you see cultural power. The cultural power is where you have how people became kings, where you got your staff of office from, where you got your crowns from. It had to be Ife. And it was tied to the economic power, which was the glass beads, Shegi and Inyo. And that was a product of the political power that was established by, and the structure that was established by Oduduwa himself. And that's linked to the religious power, which created the structure of religion in Yoruba land as we know it today. Whether is the way they organized different religious orders, including Ifa itself as a religious order and the divination system, all those things happen in Ife at the height of it, and everything was then replicated in different Yoruba cities and towns all across the space. And that's why you see all of us calling Ife a home. It had this, it was a place where civilization emanated from. They were discussing philosophy. I've said it several times. Think about people having a school over 1,000 years ago teaching divination and philosophy. That's what they were doing at a place called Oketase. Listen, the place is still in Ife today. It's very close to Orisun FM. There's a radio station very close to it in Ife. On that hill, people would set him. I mean, these were students. It wasn't everybody going there, but students will be there. They learn divination, they learn Yoruba philosophy. They were doing that. For people to be having philosophy classes over 1,000 years ago, you know that they had an advanced civilization. And this is not made up, by the way. And I said I'll discuss this as well when we're discussing Oromila. And like I always say, when we get into those things, let me tell you something. For a Yoruba person, the first thing you have to do for your life to understand Yoruba well, take your mind off this religion thing and just study it as it is. You'll be wowed by the personality of certain people, of our heroes, and the things they accomplished. If you're a religious person, do your religion. But if you're a Christian, just take it away from the faith. Just look at it as history. If you're a traditional worshiper, look at it as history. As a Muslim, look at it as history. You'll be wowed at the extent of the things they did. A people who could organize schools and teach themselves, the school is what Akin Jogbin called the Kedu, and teach themselves things and study, and have what how the Yoruba got their name. You see the stuff right from the 5th century, that's 400 AD. You have to really understand how this thing linked to even appreciate it. Listen, 336 or 386? When was the Council of Nicaea organized? Mambo, I want to make a point. You will see how these things are linked. Because if you look at Yoruba history in isolation, Mambo, 325. Council of Nicaea was in 325 AD. That was when the New Testament was canonized. Or the Old Testament was already being used. There was Septuagint before then. This was in the 4th century AD, right? Constantine had become a Christian. Things were happening in Rome and in Constantinople in Turkey. By the 5th century AD, that's 400 and something. I'm not talking about 15th century, 5th century. We're in the 21st century. So I'm talking about 1,600 years ago. Yoruba people were trading with people in Mali. I'm not talking about Oduduwa at time. I'm talking about 1,600 years ago. If you ask me for the source, I already provided it. How the Yoruba got their name? Stephen Banji Akintoye. If we have to read it, we'll read it later. That's where you are from as a Yoruba person. That's your lineage. 1,600 years ago, your ancestors were engaging in international trade. And the base of that, majority of them were going out of Ife. And this was even before the political system was eventually created in the 900 to 1000 AD. That's 10th to 11th century AD. A people like that and would have had a civilization evolve over time and created something that everybody that was connected to that place would be proud of, which is why we call Ife what we call it today. Which is why our myth revolve around that place. And the more you study the history of Ife and the history of Yoruba people, the more you understand the reason they had to create those myths at the time. Even if you're a Christian, the reason they had to create that myth, and one of the primary reasons was to give us a sense of identity. You're not just floating through this world. It's the exact same thing they did in China, where they made it look, and in fact they said it, that middle China, that was the middle of the earth. The world, the earth revolved around China. That was the Chinese mindset. Well, that was the Yoruba mindset as well. The world revolved around Ife. That's why Higgins was saying in 1886 that these people believe that all the sovereigns, all the kings of every part of this world came out of Ife. Henry Higgins was a British official saying this in 1886. This is the way these people think. They think that everybody came out of them. Because they were advanced. That's why they say, every time we have sessions here, I say we'll meet every day, Monday to Friday, every weekday, 4 p.m. Ife time. The reason I say Ife time, I've been saying it for a very long time. The reason I use the word Ife time is because in our own consciousness, we say Ibitojumo ti mowa, Ile Ife Ibitojumo ti mowa. It talks about civilization, but literally it means that's where the day dawns. In other words, everything is connected to that in terms of progress, civilization, advancement. So that by 1886, when Higgins met with the Alaafin, he was saying that, listen, there was a war, the city is in ruins, Ife is at its worst now. But guess what? We have to do something about these people. We have to find a way to resettle them, because if we don't resettle them, the old world will spoil. The whole world will spoil. That's what the Alaafin said in 1886. That's at its worst. 1903, when the Oni was invited to Lagos by Governor William McGregor, all the kings in Yoruba land, including the Alaafin, left their palaces. Why? Why? Because it was seen as a taboo for the Oni to leave. I mean, the writer said asking the Oni to leave Ife is like asking God to leave heaven. So everybody had to leave their palaces, not just to live in their towns. They had to go outside the gates of their cities. In other words, they had to live in another city until Oni returned. This is the person that this is a stool. By the way, when we use Oni is not a person. It's an office. That's why when I see these retards, and you have to be a retard, to go around saying the Oni was somebody's slave, and you are a retard. When you say things like the Oni was somebody, you don't understand. The Oni is not a person. It's an office. It doesn't matter. A 5-year-old, of course, the 5-year-old cannot become king, but even a 5-year-old becomes the Oni, it becomes my father. It becomes our father, because he's not there based on his age. That's why you see the Oni sitting, and someone like Chief Obasanjo, who can give birth to him as far as biology is concerned, age-wise, would prostrate, because it's not about the man. It's about the stool, the throne. So what will make all these kings leave is because of the sacredness of their throne. And nobody will speak against that throne, because that's their source. That's where they call home. Please, if you're on TikTok, don't stop our tapping. If you're on YouTube, please like the live and share as well. Thank you very much. That's why they call it home. You don't spoil your home. You get the point. So this one is never Ojori, is about your source. And Big Bear is not that you will cease to exist, it's that your influence, your value will whittle away. People will, and by the way, stories are going to come out. I mean, listen, I don't like to weaponize history towards anybody, let alone Yoruba people or Yoruba city. But at some point, some things will be said, also that everybody knows their place. So we've read what happened we've discussed what happened in the ancient times. We talked about what happened in the 19th century. We talked about what happened in the 20th century. Now let's talk about what happened later on in the 20th. So we talked about 1903. Let's talk about what happened in the 1980s. In the 1980s, so Oba Lamidi Adeyemi had become king in the 1970s, and then the Oni was made king in 1980. That's Oni Okwade Sijuade. Now, if you remember what I said earlier, all the while, the permanent chairman of the House of Chiefs has been the Oni. He was even the first governor of Western State. Obade Sojaderemi was the very first governor of Western Region. Right? Region. Was first governor of Western Region. So he was even in Parliament in 1950. When they were discussing the case of the North, 1951. When they were discussing the case of the North having 50% of the seats in Parliament, the Oni was the one who spoke for Western Region as a representative of his own people. And the things he said, thankfully, the records of that legislative debate is here. And if we have to read it, we'll read it. Okay? So 1980, Oba Okwade Sijuade becomes king. And then the scheming started. Now, I'm going to play you something from the son of a major king in Ibadan. It's called Oba Ashanke. I was a child when Oba Ashanke was still king. And I think it was probably the funniest king I've ever heard in my life. He used to say a lot of things, you know. I think the son here is probably going to refer to some of those things. But he talked about how, for the first time, by the way, a king in Yoruba land, especially in Oyo, would be... Oyo is important because not only, forget about the empire thing, you are a direct descendant of that throne. How exactly are you going to cast aspersions on that throne? It was unheard of. But somebody changed that tradition. And let me say something before I play what I'm about to play. To his credit, before he passed on, he tried to mend things. To his credit. Especially because the king after Oba Okwade Sijuade, who is our present Ooni of Ife, Ojaja, Oba Enito Ogunwusi, he wasn't about supremacy battle. And they were able to mend fences and, you know, you saw, if you noticed everything that happened before Oba Lamidi Koto Waja, there was Irekpo, there was friendship, there was mutual respect, there was all those, I mean, of course, also Baba not Dagba, so there was no reason for those things. So to his credit, those things came down. But here's the problem. If you spend 40 years doing something and you then change towards the end, the good people will acknowledge what you have done in terms of the fact that you have changed, you have gone back to how things should be. But the bad people will hold on to the things that you did as president. So that becomes the basis of the actions, saying that she being combined on she, and I bet you were been. Meanwhile, this person has quote unquote repented. Has changed them. By the way, repentance just means to change your mind. You make a U-turn. He has changed his mind, but and if you will be able to hold on to it and say, she didn't combine no she. But Koto Sheye, I want to play it today. I've not played it before. I want to play it. I want to listen to the schemings. I mean, that's what you can call it. Alude Akpade Koto Sheye láàrin Ọba Aláàfin àná àti Olúbàdàn. Olúbàdàn ṣé jẹta ni àbí jẹ wà torí bàbá ẹmọ kó àwọn Ìbàdàn ọba máa ń pẹ́ náà kó tó dọba, so it happens like that. So there was an interview where his son talked about that matter. I'm going to find it for you and we'll listen together. Okay? Take a listen, please. 1 second. Okay. Mumbo. Let's do away with the ad. I'm playing from YouTube, so give me a second. Okay. All right, please take a listen to the prince from Ibadan, the son of Oba Ashanke, the pastor of Ibadan. Take a listen, please.
Pé ká mọ̀ fún ipò alága àwọn lọ́balọ́ba nípínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ wọ́n ní báláàfin bá jẹ kólúbàdàn ó jẹ bíṣọ̀ ohun tìlú Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ náà ó jẹ kí wọ́n máa rotate láàrin ara wọn. àwọn kan wá wòye pé èyí ti jẹ́ kámọ́rì agbẹ́dọ̀ kí odidi aláàfin tó jẹ́ kó ń lò fún Ìbàdàn ládé kó wá máa bá wọn jókòó à ń yípo ipò alága àwọn lọ́balọ́ba lọ́dún náà ló ń bó ló ṣe rí. ìgbésẹ̀ wo ni kábíyèsí gbé bó lọ̀rọ̀ ṣe jẹ́.
ẹ ṣe olóòtú mẹ́rin kọ̀ọ̀kan máa ń pa mí ni pé Aláàfin ló fún Olúbàdàn ládé. Aláàfin kọ́ ló fún Olúbàdàn ládé o. nínú chief law Ọ̀yọ́ state ẹ lọ wo tí ẹ ní Olúbàdàn tó bá fẹ́ gbadé tí wọ́n bá fẹ́ fún ẹ ní ìbọ̀dì ládé traditional council máa jókòó láti nominate pé nínú àwọn tí ń ṣe báyìí o kí làwọn ṣe sí báyìí o àwa náà ti tó gbadé. ẹ rí i pé ìgbà tán nominate adé yẹn kọ́ ni wọ́n gbadé yẹn. Olúbàdàn ti wà látàrí bàbá wa pass Alẹ́ṣinlọ́yẹ́ náà ti change baálẹ̀ sí Olúbàdàn bọ̀ àwọn ò dádé. ìgbà tó di 1976 láyé bàbá wa Adébímpé lolúbàdàn tó dádé. Olúbàdàn àkọ́kọ́ nìyẹn. bàbá wa Akínbíyì ní Olúbàdàn kejì tó dádé. bàbá wa ọba Yésù. nípa ọ̀rọ̀ lọ́balọ́ba tẹ́ ẹ̀dẹ̀ sọ yìí mo fẹ́ lè sọ pé orí bàbá wa Ṣàníkẹ́ náà ló ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ́jọ́ tèmi tá à ń lò lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀.
ní à ń pínpọ̀ alága lọ́balọ́ba ti bẹ̀rẹ̀.
bẹ́ẹ̀ni
bó ló ṣe jẹ́.
ẹ ṣe nígbà náà tẹ́ bá dé pálásì wa ní Ìdí Aró rẹ́píkà àga tí bàbá wa ọba Adéyẹmí tó fi máa ń jókòó ní pálásì wọn ó wà ní pálásì wa. èyí túmọ̀ sí pé alájọṣepọ̀ mọ̀rànmọ̀ràn jọ ni wọ́n. mo fẹ́ lè sọ pé kò sí ìgbà kan láàrin ọ̀sẹ̀ kan tàbí ẹ̀kan méjì láàrin ọ̀sẹ̀ méjì kí bàbá wa Adéyẹmí má dé ọ̀dọ̀ kábíyèsí Àṣàníkẹ́.
ok Aláàfin tìlú Ọ̀yọ́ ọba Adéyẹmí tó wájà.
bẹ́ẹ̀ ni
ok
nígbà náà bàbá wa Àṣàníkẹ́ ni ó jẹ́ ẹni tó dàgbà jù láàrin wọn. táìmì yẹn náà ni bàbá wa Oyèwùmí Ajagungbadé Ṣọ̀ún wà lórí ipò. so táìmì yẹn ìtàn tẹ́ béèrè ìtàn ńlá ni o. old Ọ̀yọ́ làwọn àgbà yẹn o. Ọ̀ṣun state àwọn Òṣogbo kankan wọ́n sì wà lọ́ndọ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ state nígbà yẹn.
Ọ̀ṣun àtọ̀yọ́ jọ wà papọ̀ ní.
wọ́n jọ wà papọ̀ nígbà yẹn ni. bàbá wa Ọọ̀ni Síjú-Adé dẹ̀ ní olórí lọ́balọ́ba nípínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ńgbà yẹn.
old Ọ̀yọ́ state.
ní old Ọ̀yọ́ Ọọ̀ni of Ifẹ̀ ní olórí lọ́balọ́ba. so wọ́n wá máa ń ṣèpàdé yìí ní ẹ̀ẹ̀kan lóṣù. so ó dijọ́ kan ìpàdé yẹn ti ń bọ̀ bàbá wa Adéyẹmí kọ́lọ́ ń bá wa fọ̀run kẹ́ wọn. wọ́n wá bá bàbá wa Ṣàníkẹ́ pé kábíyèsí Olúbàdàn alẹ́ Ìbàdàn kábíyèsí ní ẹ̀mí ò dénú kí la tó rí gbọ́ sọ ń tọ́ sọ o. àbá mi mo ní wá rí yín fọ̀rọ̀ kan ni.
lọ́jọ́ orí Àṣàníkẹ́ ọba Àṣàníkẹ́ ju
dáadáa
ọba Aláàfin tìlú Ọ̀yọ́ lọ.
dáadáa first born Àṣàníkẹ́ gan wọ́n fẹ́ lè jọ jẹ́rọ̀ tàbí kan tún jura wọn lọ díẹ̀.
wọ́n fún wọn ní àpọ́nlé ọjọ́ orí
yẹn. wọ́n dẹ̀ jẹ́ aláwàdà tán máa ń jọ jálá jọ ṣe ẹ rí i pé mo sọ lẹ́ẹ̀kan pé àgàrú tán fi ń jókòó palace yẹn anybody ò dẹ́n jókòó ń bẹ̀ kọ̀ǹtìgbà tán láàfin bá tó dé wọ́n máa ń cover ẹ̀ ni. so bàbá wa Aláàfin wa sọ fún bàbá Àṣàníkẹ́ pé kábíyèsí ọ̀rọ̀ kan tí mo wá rí yín fún yìí nípa mítìnì lọ́balọ́ba tá a máa ń ṣe gbogbo ọ̀nà láti gba nǹkan kan ẹnì kò kan lè máa wá láti Ifẹ̀ láti máa jókòó wájú máa darí ìpàdé fún wa kábíyèsí ní ṣe bí ìjọba ṣe tònú ìjọba ló tó bẹ́ẹ̀. bàbá Aláàfin wa bẹ Àṣàníkẹ́ pé lóòótọ́ ìjọba ló tó bẹ́ẹ̀ bọ́ ibi tá a ti ń ṣèpàdé ìbò ni kábíyèsí ní sẹkítẹ́ríàtì ní ẹníbo ilé ìjọba sẹkítẹ ẹ nílùú wo mò ń sọ kábíyèsí dé ẹni o tó dé o Ìbàdàn ní àìná ni ẹ̀gbọ́n tí mo sọnù nílùú bàbá tí wọ́n ṣàbẹ̀rẹ̀ géèmì ẹ̀ bàbá ní kí náà fẹ́ náà bá ní ipò lọ́balọ́ba ẹ̀ pé ṣé wọ́n mọ̀ pé ó yẹ káwọn jọ máa rotate ẹ̀ tó ní bá jẹ kólúbàdàn jẹ káwọn jẹ Ìṣọ̀ún jẹ bàbá wa láwọn aronú sí ìgbà tó tún di bíi wọ́n ti wá lẹ́ẹ̀mejì lẹ́yìn ìgbà yẹn wọ́n tún mú bàbá wa Ṣọ̀ún Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ àwọn méjì jọ wá pẹ̀lú àwọn ọba kan lókè Ògùn nígbà yẹn wọ́n tún wá persuade bàbá because in tó dẹ̀ tí mo rí kó fa ilé ni pé wọ́n mọ̀ pé bàbá láyà púpọ̀ kò sí tí bàbá ò lè kojú so bá ṣe wá bàbá ní ó dáa ṣe ń tẹ fẹ́ nù wọ́n ní bẹ́ẹ̀ ni táìmù yẹn ìpàdé wọn dẹ̀ kú bí ọ̀túnla bàbá ní mo ti gbọ́ wọ́n máa ń bẹ̀rẹ̀ meeting yẹn ní 10 o'clock bàbá ti dé meeting yẹn láfter 7 láàárọ̀ kábíyèsí Àṣàníkẹ́ wá lọ jókòó sórí àga tí Ọọ̀ni of Ifẹ̀ máa ń jókòó lé.
wọ́n ti jọ sọ pé ìpàdé ó wáyé.
ìpàdé ó wáyé níjọ́
ní House of Chief.
ní House of Chief.
ìgbà tí kábíyèsí Aláàfin ti dé ọ̀hún.
bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Olúbàdàn ọba Àṣàníkẹ́ àwọn náà ti dọ̀hún. àwọn wá lọ jókòó sórí àga tó yẹ kí Ọọ̀ni ti Ilé Ifẹ̀ jókòó.
Olúbàdàn Àṣàníkẹ́ ló kọ́kọ́ jí débẹ̀. wọ́n ti sọ fún Aláàfin pé àwọn ó tètè débẹ̀. bàbá Aláàfin náà ti kó gbogbo ọba Òkè Ògùn pátá àti gbogbo àti Ṣọ̀ún gbogbo wọn ti wà ńbẹ̀.
Temu phone comes with a handy stylus. Its large screen.
so bó ṣe ń tó táìmù pàdé bọ̀ bàbá wa Àṣàníkẹ́ ti jókòó sórí seat tó ní máa ń jókòó sí commissioner of chieftaincy nígbà yẹn ó wá bá kábíyèsí no director ló kọ́ wá bá kábíyèsí pé kábíyèsí ààyè yín mọ̀kànlẹ̀ jókòó sí yẹn bàbá láàyè ta ni o wọ́n láàyè Ọọ̀ni ni kábíyèsí ni Ọọ̀ni kọ́ àǹtà ni báradáradẹ sọ́hún ọ̀rọ̀ búkọ́ àbí mi bí ẹ ṣe pé lọ pé ọ̀gá ẹ̀ nìyẹn lọ́fíìsì ó lọ pé kọmíṣánná wa bí kọmíṣánná ṣe ń bọ̀ ìwọ ẹni tó bá dẹ̀ mọ̀ bàbá wa Àṣàníkẹ́ dáadáa tí bàbá ò bá fẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ sọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀ rò pé ó ti sùn lọ ni bàbá máa tó gbé ni bàbá ń ṣe bí ẹni tó ti sùn kọmíṣánná ò lè pa ọlá mọ́ wọn lára tágbàlagbà bá ń sùn wọn ló ń dọ́là ni so wọn lọ wọn ń bọ̀ kò pẹ́ sígbà yẹn bàbá wa Síjú Adé Olúbùṣe wọ́n wọlé dé so lérò gbogbo wọn ni wípé tí Ọọ̀ni bá ti wọlé ó dájú bóyá Àṣàníkẹ́ ń rẹjú lórí síìtì yẹn ni bóyá wọ́n á dìde bọ́ọ̀ ní ṣe wá wọlé lọ́dún náà lọ́hùn bàbá wa Àṣàníkẹ́ sì ń wọ́n ń tó gbé kábíyèsí Ọọ̀ni wá ń kọjá lọ wájú wọn wọ́n ń kọjá bọ̀ ìgbà tó délẹ̀ ìyẹn wọ́n ń wojú gbogbo àwọn officials yẹn pé kí ló ń ṣẹlẹ̀ bọ́n ṣe ń padà bọ̀ lẹ́lẹ́kẹta kábíyèsí Àṣàníkẹ́ kàn fà wọ́n padà ní Síjú Adé ọmọ bàjẹ́ pọ̀ o sọ́pọ̀ rí mi ń jókòó ni ọ̀hà ń parí ìdàdìdà wájú mi ìwádìí jókòó sí abẹ́rẹ́ ìpàdé àwọn officials government wọ́n ti lé gbogbo oníròyìn jáde. a máa ń bọ̀ even though ọ̀rọ̀ tí mò ń sọ yìí brother mi kan wà tá a ti jọ fi sọ̀rọ̀ rí tán láwọn náà wà nínú pressman tó wà ní palace ìjọ náà àwọn ni press secretary Olúbàdàn Adétúnjì tó rájọ iṣẹ́ pẹ̀lú bàbá Adétúnjì ni brother mi Adéọlá Ọlọ́kọ̀. àwọn ni press secretary bàbá wa ọba Rasheed Adéyàwó náà sí. so bí gbogbo bí wọ́n ṣe lọ kábíyèsí Àṣàníkẹ́ jókòó àti chairman jọ yẹn up side. so gbàtán lọ tán wọ́n wọ̀nù gbogbo ọba pé kí anybody má address the press. so gbogbo ọba jáde ńbẹ yẹn anybody ò bá press sọ̀rọ̀ pọ̀ gbogbo ọba Òkè Ògùn pátá àtàláàfin àti Ṣọ̀ún Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ gbogbo wọn náà tẹ̀lé Àṣàníkẹ́ jáde síta gbàtàn dẹnu gate tán ti fẹ́ bọ́ta gbogbo oníròyìn bò wọ́n kábíyèsí lẹ́yìn oròyìn tó dénú wọ́n ti ní àmọ́ bá ń sọ nǹkan kan mọ́dá kábíyèsí bó tiẹ̀ ṣe kóró kan tiẹ̀ sọ fún wa àbá ní kò sí nǹkan kan tó ṣẹlẹ̀ o ju pé láti nílò èmi ọba Yésùfù Olóyèdé Àṣàníkẹ́ mo ti dalága ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ èyí àbá mi bàbá ṣe wọnú mọ́tò ẹ̀ nìyẹn. Lọ́jọ́ náà lọ́hùn bàbá wa Aláàfin sin kábíyèsí Àṣàníkẹ́ délé. Ibi tí drama yẹn ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ nìyẹn. Látọdún yẹn bàbá wa Ọọ̀ni of Ifẹ̀ ò wá ṣèpàdé mọ́ l'Ọ̀yọ́ state. Eléyìí wà lára pọ̀ṣù nítorí fi pọ̀ṣù Ọ̀ṣun state. Pé táwọn bá dúró irú àbùkù yìí kò ní máa tẹ̀síwájú. Toró ti ní nǹkan kan tó jọ ń pa wọ́n pọ̀ láàrin Aláàfin Ọọ̀ni ní gbogbo ìgbà yẹn. Bọ̀ bàbá wa Àṣàníkẹ́ jẹ́ ẹnìkan tó jẹ́ pé ó máa ń tẹ̀lé history. Tó bá wò síṣẹ́ rẹ̀ pé ẹ ṣe báwa la ṣe gbá àwa la ṣàwò. Ṣé understand? Bọ́rọ̀ yẹn ṣe wá nìyẹn. Ìgbà tí bàbá wa délé tán tó wá di bí ọ̀sẹ̀ kejì àbọ̀sẹ̀ kẹta bàbá wa Aláàfin wá wọ́n wá sọ fún wọn pé bó ni ọ̀rọ̀ tó ní àṣẹ àti ṣe o bó láṣẹ wa mọ̀ ṣe ní ìsìn bẹ́ẹ̀ mi bá jẹ tán ìwọ jẹ Ṣọ̀ún ó jẹ bàbá Aláàfin jarí ńjọ́ náà lọ́hùn pé Ṣọ̀ún ò ní máa bá wọn rotate. Àṣàníkẹ́ ní kí ló dé wọ́n ní àwọn làwọn tu ilẹ̀ Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ fún Ṣọ̀ún Ajagungbadé ni wọ́n pé so kò sínú ẹ̀tọ́ láti máa jọ rotate. Àṣàníkẹ́ rárá o àṣọ́bàǹká tó bẹ̀rẹ̀ eléyìí kọ́kọ́ fàjà láàrin wọn láyé ní táìmù yẹn ó dà ìpọ́n gbéra wọn lọ sí court bọ̀ǹgbà t'Àṣàníkẹ́ ṣe tán gbélẹ̀ fún bàbá wa Aláàfin táìmù tó yẹ kí ó kan tọ́ọ̀nù bàbá wa Ṣọ̀ún Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́ àwọn wà ní Mẹ́kà àwọn lọ sílùú Mẹ́kà.
Ta ló wà Mẹ́kà?
Bàbá wa Ṣọ̀ún Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́. Wọ́n lọ sílùú Mẹ́kà ní bàbá wa Aláàfin àti gọ́vnà tó wà nígbà yẹn lọ́rùn ṣé Olúrin àbí. Military governor tó wà lọ́hùn ní táìmù yẹn lọ́hùn bàbá wa Aláàfin wọ́n ti jọ ní meeting kan tájọ ṣe so táìmù yẹn ni bàbá wa Aláàfin sọ l'Ọ̀yọ́ state.
Dípò àdéhùn pé ẹja máa pín láàrin ara wa tí wọ́n ṣe lẹ́yìn Ọọ̀ni.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni ìgbà tán wá sọ gbólóhùn permanent chairman yìí bàbá wa Àṣàníkẹ́ kò tẹ́ wọn lọ́rùn mọ́ bọ́ àgbà ti dé. Bàbá wa Àṣàníkẹ́ wọ́n lọ kóòtù against wọ́n gbà yẹn pẹ̀lú bàbá Ṣọ̀ún Ògbómọ̀ṣọ́. So ìgbà tó di 1993 ni bàbá wa Àṣàníkẹ́ wàjà. Ìgbà tán wàjà 1993 bàbá wa tó tún jẹ lẹ́yìn wọn Ọ̀pẹ́rìndé àwọn náà apply fún chairmanship yìí nígbà yẹn kó tó di pé bàbá wa Kálà wá ṣe òfin lórí ẹ̀ wípé kan tó jọ máa rotate kí bàbá wa Aláàfin Adéyẹmí kẹta kan tó lọ court páwọn ògbà ìgbà tán lọ court páwọn ògbà yẹn house of chief wà ní suspension ní ìròpọ̀ tí padà up to date house of chief wà ní suspension but bàbá wa Aláàfin sì ń lo permanent chairman yẹn lọ kó tó di pé ní yíyẹ kan torí èmi ní private secretary bàbá Olúbàdàn Ìjẹta àbí Ìjẹrin Ajé Ògúnnúsọ. So time yẹn a wá ní meeting kan pẹ̀lú bàbá wa Adéyẹmí Aláàfin bàbá Aláàfin wá ń sọ fún time yẹn náà ìjà wà láàrin gọ́vnọ̀ Ajímọ̀bí àti bàbá wa Adétúnjì. So bàbá Aláàfin wá ń sọ fún wa lọ́jọ́ náà pé mọ̀ wo gómìnà àwa suspension a ṣe mítìnì ìsìn fún wa lówó oṣù sáwà suspension nù. Ṣé understand? Kó tó di pé gómìnà wa ẹlẹ́yinjú àánú gọ́vnọ̀ Ṣèyí Mákindé tún wá wo ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn sìn pé kò yẹ kó máa rí bẹ́ẹ̀ kán jọ wà bí wọ́n ṣe pera wọn padà láti jókòó sí house of chief láti máa ṣèpàdé lọ lẹ́yìn tí he bá jẹ kí bí jẹ kí sis jẹ bọ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ traditional council chairman wọn l'Ọ̀yọ́ state Àṣàníkẹ́ ló kọ́kọ́ gbà lọ́wọ́ bàbá wa ni.
Nígbà tí gbogbo ọ̀rọ̀ yìí tó bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní rúgbó ìgbà tí wọ́n wá gé Ọ̀ṣun sọ́tọ̀ tí Ọ̀yọ́ dá dúró Ọọ̀ni tí Ilé-Ifẹ̀ àwọn wọ́n ti lọ ń jọba tiwọn tí ò sẹ́ni ó bá wọn dùn mọ́ láàrin Aláàfin Olúbàdàn àti Ṣọ̀ún ǹjẹ́ wọ́n sì ń padà jọ ń sọ̀rọ̀ papọ̀ ìhà wo ni ọjọ́ ń kọ síra wọn.
Wọ́n ṣe padà jọ ń sọ̀rọ̀ papọ̀ bọ̀ látìgbà tí gọ́vnà Akala ṣe àpé 1991 wọ́n ti wà ń court kí bàbá Ṣàníkẹ́ tó kú so ọ̀rọ̀ tó bá dẹ̀ wà ń court ṣe hàn pé wọn kì í dá sí i ṣe ọ̀rọ̀ star nìyẹn ló fa long range chairman tí bàbá wa Aláàfin wà lórí ẹ̀ because tọ́rọ̀ bá ṣe wà ń court wọn lè ṣe nǹkan kan lórí ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn so n tó ṣẹlẹ̀ ni
títí tí wọ́n fi wá yanjú rẹ̀ báyìí.
wọ́n fi yanjú ẹ̀ báyìí.
tó túmọ̀ sí pé kábíyèsí Aláàfin ìlú Ọ̀yọ́ gan-an ló initiate gbogbo plan yìí.
ó yẹ káwọn jọ máa pín jẹ kábíyèsí Aláàfin ló bẹ̀rẹ̀.
ó túmọ̀ sí pé bàbá ọba Yéṣùfù Àṣàníkẹ́ gan o wọn rò tàbí wò pé bóyá àwọn tiẹ̀ lè jẹ́ alága ẹ̀ rárá.
àwọn believe pé n tíjọba bá ti ṣe ni nígbà yẹn pé ṣe bí ìjọba ló ṣe but ìgbà tí bàbá wa Aláàfin wa fi lọ̀ wọ́n kó yẹ káwọn jọ máa jẹ́ ni ló mú ìgbésẹ̀ tí bàbá wa Ṣàníkẹ́ gbé ńgbà yẹn.
One comment section said, now, to be honest, if you check any official records, you will actually discover that the official record was that Oni was chairman of the House of Chiefs until 1991, when Osun State was created. That's the official record. But in actual fact, he stopped going to that meeting after what this man described happened. He stopped going. But officially, I'm not one in charge of, but unofficially, or you and Ibadan were fighting over it. I want to read something to you before I play something from the new Olubadan on the matter of rotating chairmanship. It says, so I'm going to read from an article by, it's from the Liberation News. I'm not going to start from the beginning because of time. It says here, despite ganging up with few other obas like Shawon of Ogomosho, Olubad of Ibadan, Owa of Ilesha, in leading a revolt calling for the rotation of chairmanship position of Oyo State Council of Obas from its permanent position of Oni of Ile-Ife, Oba Lamidi Adeyemi never succeeded. However, at the creation of Osun State and the exit of Oni from Oyo State to newly created Osun State, the opportunity finally presented itself for Alaafin to be the chairman of Oyo State Council of Obas and Chiefs. Having forgotten the earlier unwholesome alliance with the Obas mentioned above for rotational chairmanship, he occupied the office. Unfortunately, after the expiration of his 2 years tenure, and Olubad of Ibadan was to occupy the seat as per their previous agreement before the exit of Oni, the Alaafin reneged on the agreement and resigned from the council because he couldn't stand seeing Olubad of Osho, who were promoted from Bale in 1977 to Oba, to be presiding over meetings where he would be present. With all of the above and records available at the National Archives, interested people are free to their opinions and to change the gazette on this issue or legal option can be resorted to. We're going to get into other things. This is taking us back to what happened in about this and about Chibolo. But here's the point. What made Oba Lamidi Adeyemi do the things he did? Now, I'm going to ask some questions. I'm not going to make a statement. I'm just going to ask a few questions. Could it be, in fact, just one question, could it be that it was motivated by what happened to his father? Which is not clear. Give me a second. Can you hear me? Is it clear? Is it better now? I hope it's better now. Please let me know in the comment section if we're good. Better, okay, thank you. Okay, so please, which part did I say that you did not hear? Everything I said is you didn't hear anything I said, Abby. Did you hear when I was reading? Was it clear when I was reading the article? Was it? I'm sorry. Was the microphone clear? Was I clear when I was reading the article? You heard? Oh, okay. That's fine. So here's the thing. Here's the question I wanted to ask. Could it be what happened to Obademi the first that made Obademi the second do the things he did? Could it be? Could it be that it was? And then could it also? And then could the other question would be that was it ambition or something else that will make him say, no, it shouldn't just be the Oni? That was the first time we began to have issues with this Alaafin Oni thing. It started in the 1980s, late 1980s to be well, mid to late 1980s. It was more personal than institutional. The other thing that's there right now is taking on the whole thing as if it's an institutional beef. It is not institutional. It was personal. And you would expect that those who are leading us will be more concerned with the development of their land than to inherit people's beefs, especially when the person who started the beef decided to change his mind towards in the twilight of his time on earth. He changed his views. Thankfully, by the way, that's to his credit. He changed his views, and you saw the relationship between him and Oni Ogunwusi. It wasn't the same thing that he had with Oni Shujuade. So it was a personal issue, and it was. I mean, this Oni made sure that he did not inherit that thing. So, big on boy man so ni Jebu afi de pote mole, of pot mole. The other thing that just got there, it's not even up to 1 year. He has inherited a personal beef as if it is an institutional issue. There's nothing between the thrones, or there's no comparison. There's no beef, there's no competition, there's no basis for competition. What is just happened? I mean, you heard that. By the way, Okpo, we'll be bringing that one by one. This one is from how the whole issue of Oni cannot be the only king that's the permanent chairman. Here's the crazy part. After he took over, guess what he wanted to do? To become the permanent chairman of Oyo State Council of Chiefs, of Obas. After they were able to say, oh, let's get Oni out of the way, and they now got there, he now wanted to become the same thing that he was complaining about. Which is why the Showun has spoken up. I mean, the one that was there, Obajagungbade, was talking. Olubadan has spoken up. And in case you have not heard them or heard anything about it, I'm going to play something to you from Olubadan. This, for me, is just to tell you about people that all these young people insulting Oni on social media, number one, you are daft. Number two, you don't even know what you are fighting. It has nothing to do with the stool. And yes, if you insult Oni, you are daft. I don't care who you are. I'm going to play you something from Obaladoja on this matter of who is the chairman of the Council of Chiefs in Oyo State. So at least you have an idea how the whole thing happened now. Like I always say, I'm trying to find the particular point. Like I always say, regardless of what you say about what Oba Damidi Adeyemi did, at least towards the end, he tried to course correct, so to speak. You have to correct his course, and that's something you have to acknowledge. But number one, you can't even be asking if you are bigger than your great grandfather. Oh, no, it's not even the grandfather; it's the great grandfather. You can't be to ask that question. Is you are disrespecting yourself. So there's nothing to even compare to even start with. But all this nonsense. Anyway, I want to play something from the Olubadan. Yeah. This was even before Kiwabato Bosori Akpero. Ẹ̀gbọ́n nǹkan tí Ọba Rashidi Adéwọ̀lú Ládọjà nǹkan tán sọ. Ẹ gbọ́.
Ó ní pé ní àwọn kan mẹ́ta káàkiri àṣìṣe tẹ́lẹ̀ àti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí àṣì wọn. Nígbà tí wọ́n náà fẹ́ ṣe chairman president House of Chiefs and invitation bá fẹ́. ẹni ìtàn sọ pé aláàfin náà sọ pé kíní kankan ní ilé ìta fẹ́ ṣe é sìn house of assembly là ń gbé bíìlì lọ. O ti sọ tán pé bàbá mi ṣe nǹkan báyìí ní bọ́dà sọ́sìn. Tí wọ́n kan náà fẹ́ ṣe àbúrò rẹ̀. Mo ní ẹ má gbàgbé o 32 members ló wà ní house o. Speaker kan wà láàrin wọn o. Tí wọ́n bá máa dìbò speaker ò ní dìbò. 16 nínú 32 la ní o. Pẹ̀lú support sí àwọn house of assembly dẹ̀ ń fún wa. Tá a bá ní bíbá nìkan dìbò sí ibi tí wọ́n ti jí náà. Oníṣòwò kí ẹ sọ fún nìkan lọ sọ fún Aláàfin pé tí Ìbàdàn bá fẹ́ máa jẹ permanent chairman máa jẹ o.
What's Kabisi saying here? He's saying that they're talking about how they're going to be rotating the chairmanship. And some people are saying in history somebody was empire, and he said it doesn't really matter what happened. Going forward, this is how we're going to do it. And then he reminded them that 32 seats in the Oyo State Parliament, there is one speaker. So you have 31 people left. Of those 31 seats, 16 are in Ibadan. So he's saying if Ibadan wants to be the permanent chairman, they can do it in the House of Assembly because they're the ones that will make the decision. In other words, the idea of rotate. Sherry, let me tell you something about life. Please, if you want, even if you have to change the order, I'll say that number one, respect the order that your ancestors have created, the structure. Even if you want to change that structure, don't do it by belittling your forebears. You can change things. I mean, life is dynamic. Culture is dynamic, right? Even the things that our fathers did, they also changed some of the things that their own fathers did. Every generation has to get better. You have to be open to innovation, right? Your father stupid. Once you do that, you have given every generation coming after you, all the successive generations, you have given them the right to call you stupid. Why did I say that? Nobody would have thought of even arguing about the permanent chairmanship of Oyo State with the Alaafin if the Alaafin had not tried to remove the Ooni in the 1980s. No one will even think of it. Because, okay, why would you want to? So you want to change the order, but you're going to change the order by belittling your forebears. What you have done is that you have given everybody the right to make sure that when you get there, not only will they question you, they will use the law against you and your own forebears and tell them that, listen, no, we have 16 representatives in the House of Assembly in Oyo State, and those people can vote to keep us there permanently. What are you going to do? Wallahi, kò sí nǹkan tó wà ṣe. Me think, oh, lè ṣe kankan. That's why you have to be. I mean, this is not about just history. In our own personal lives as well. If your parents have done something, people say things that my father should have done. If you are more than 18 years and you're still crying about what your father should have done, you need help. Oh. My father could not have done something. If he had done something, my dad doesn't know how to think. My father is not a good planner. My father, you may be right. You may be right. But just make sure that your children are not hearing you or your younger siblings are not hearing you say that about your parents. My father, only my father had done this. You know where I would have been? All this, my father. All those people that do that thing to them. My father was not a perfect man, by the way. If you insult your fathers and your parents, I don't care what you do for your children. And the funny thing, I learned this thing, of course, as a parent. You cannot no matter how good you are, there will be something that even you know that, oh boy, I could have done that thing better. So that means that the next generation will probably build on it and make it better. So, so let me explain something. Let me use this and then I was like, I could have handled that thing better with these boys. But nobody has the right to curse his parents and say, see what they did. And by the way, you may be right too. That's the funny thing about life. You may even be very correct. But what to share to fi sọ fún wọn pé àwọn ẹni iwájú yẹn orí wọn ò pé kàn yọ wọn kúrò ó fẹ́ ṣe rotational chairmanship. Nígbà tí wọ́n wá débẹ̀ wọ́n fẹ́ di permanent chairman. Àwọn tó ń bọ̀ lẹ́yìn máa bèèrè lọ́yẹ̀ pé ṣé o pé àwọn gọ̀ ni. Àwọn máa rotate kínní ni. Kínní kan empire sọ́sà pọ̀ ẹ̀. The only empire we know is Empire State Buildings in New York. Ours kò matter. This was this month, by the way, December 15th. Ladoja, I am not Olubadan of Yoruba land or your state. My jurisdiction is Ibadan. Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oba Rashidi Ladoja has declared that he is not interested in being the Olubadan of Yoruba land or that of your state. The foremost Ibadan traditional ruler added that his area of jurisdiction does not extend beyond 11 local government areas of your state, with about 4 million residing there. Oba Ladoja further said his area or sphere of influence was clearly stated in the Oyo State Chief's Law and Ibadan Chieftaincy Declaration, and told an impressive crowd of Ibadan heavyweights, including Asiwaju Bode Amao, Chief Bayo Yero, Otunba Logun, Oba Kola Adegbola, and the Iyalode group, that it was a clear-cut idea of how he wanted to manage the challenges, that he has a clear-cut idea of how he wanted to manage the challenges facing Ibadan. Quote, okay, when people were talking, I was talking about Circular Road and what happened in Ibadan, land grabbing stuff, all right? Let me send it to you. Obalajuja further said, when the Oni of Ife, Obadiah Yetin Togunwusi, conferred the chieftaincy title of Okanlomo Odua on our illustrious son, Engineer Dr. Sanusi, many traditional rulers, not just from Ibadan, but from Oyo State, attended in solidarity. We didn't know that that one of our illustrious daughters, Chief Mrs. Latinwo, was going to be installed Yeye Bobagunwa Odua. He's essentially saying that, he has his own work. The point here is this. When people are beginning to tell you that I am not the king of Yoruba, I'm king of Ibadan, they are saying something to somebody who thinks that he is heading all of them. I know the way life works. I can call yourself, you know how mentorship is, Abi? If you're a pastor, if you're a Christian or a minister, you know how this thing works. I used to talk to my friends back in the day. They would go everywhere and say, that's my daughter, that's my son. So I'm like, what's all this that you guys are doing? That son, does he know you're his father? You may not understand this, you're not a Christian. Spiritual father, spiritual mother. Oh, that's my spiritual son, that's my spiritual daughter. This one you're calling spiritual son, does he even recognize you as father? That's what's going to happen to some people. You will call yourself father of people, they will tell you that they don't know who you are because there's no connection. The only thing that makes you father is your mouth. And while people are building, I also people will not spend the entire time on the throne just looking for what is not lost. Somebody wrote in the comment section earlier that, let me read to you so I can say exactly what you wrote. He said, even the influence of Onishijuade in getting Alaafin and DMing the soul of Oyo is massive. Yeah, but I don't want to talk about it because it's just to make something very clear. Yoruba land has a lot to do, and there's no need for this thing. You see somebody building universities, building hotels, building businesses, having stuff, getting his people employed, and all you are looking for is how to say you are, number one, you are not bigger. If you are big, by the way, anybody that comes is, I've said it before, is the mindset of that prostitute in the Bible. Anybody that says to you, it doesn't really matter because is a lie. There's nothing like that. There's a clear-cut order of things. Don't come to me with that nonsense of it doesn't really matter. No. There's structure, there's hierarchy, there's order, and nobody's enforcing it. But don't try to, and if you say it doesn't really matter, okay, if it doesn't matter, why are you changing it? And live your life. The story of the prostitute in the Bible, I've said this here several times. That one who says, in case you have not heard the story before, the story of two prostitutes, right? Both of them were mothers, which is quite interesting considering their line of work, but they were mothers, they had babies, and they slept overnight. One of them slept on her baby. I don't know how she did that, and the baby died. When she woke up, she discovered that her son was dead. So she switched the babies. She put the dead baby, which was hers, under the bosom of the other woman who was also sleeping, and then took the living baby. The woman wakes up in the morning and says her baby was dead. And then, eventually it was like, this is my baby. So no, it's not your baby. Okay, anyway, they got to the king. It was King Solomon. They got to the king, and they're like, the mother of the living baby was saying the baby was hers. The other prostitute was saying the baby was hers. So the king came up with an idea. Let us cut this baby into two. And one said, that's what we should do. Let's cut it into two so that both of us will have something out of it. And then one said, don't cut it though. Just leave that baby. And the king said, the one that says leave the baby, don't cut the baby in two, that's the mother. The one that says just at least I'll have a share, is not the mother, because you know that this baby is going to die if we divide it into two. Anything that tells you let's just all own it, that's a thief. That's somebody that thrives in dysfunction. They don't like order or structure. Just break it. It's the same thing we're fighting about in this whole Nigerian thing. So it doesn't really matter. We not all want Nigeria. We all own the place together. Why do we need to have one king that's superior? Even if history says he's the father of all, he's the king of Ife. It doesn't really matter, Jerry. Let all of us. It's a lie. It matters. But it doesn't matter because it matters not because we want to use it and say, everybody, bow. Everybody bow. That's ridiculous. But there's order. And if you don't know what that order has done, the sense of ancestry, in 1945, when Ẹgbẹ́ Omoduduwa started in London, the primary thing they built on was ancestry. That all of us claim Ife as our source. That thing, and I don't think we really know what our fathers did. Moyi. It's not about it. It could be anywhere else. But the point is that they gave us this thing where we are not drifting on this earth. We are planted, we are rooted. We can say this is home. If push comes to shove, we know where to return. This 1903 thing I was talking about, the Alafin couldn't do anything about it. And it was wise to say it's the Oni that can do it, because it's the father of all. And so MacGregor had to get to the king, and then in 1902, and then arrange for him to travel to Lagos in 1903. That everybody knows their place. It doesn't mean one is even number one. If somebody tells you that you're inferior to your father and you are angry, you are a bastard. That's number one. Number two, in reality, your father doesn't even want you to be inferior to him. Good fathers want you to be better than them. But you are also a bastard if you are the one who opens your mouth to tell your father that you are better than him. Even if you are better than him. Imagine a child going to his father and say, Daddy, I need to come. Only if you have to be a bastard to say, somebody say, your father is better than you, and you're angry, you're throwing a fit. How can you say that? What do you mean? I'm better than my father. You say that to the outsider, you're a bastard. You go home and tell your father you're better than him, you're also a bastard. It doesn't matter if you have more money than Darota. This is simple, common Yoruba ethos. I don't know where it vanished to. It's not about money or building. Your father could be wearing one clothes all his life. And he may have built Banana Island. Maybe 10 banana islands. By the way, that also shows poorly on you, because if your father doesn't have a house and he's wearing one cloth and wearing rag and you're doing fine boy in city, that's the truth. What was that song by Benga Deboye? Fine boy, I remember that video right now. It was Baba Jirebi. Was the father in that Benga Deboye stuff. She fine boy with girls in cars, but the parents are suffering in the village. That child is also a bastard. We'll be saying it. But here's the point. Let's even say for whatever reason is in abject poverty, but you have somehow hit it. You are in affluence. You cannot go home and tell him that, see my car, I'm better than you. Who raised us? Because listen, it is us that are becoming the kings. The kings are not imported. It's from us, amongst us. The politicians are not imported. They are from amongst us. When might is right, or power or money makes you powerful or makes you superior to everybody, where's the money safe? Who on that? Awari, who on that? Tell about the Mashako. She Ogushi was Shako. All I'm saying is, if you notice, the fact that there's order and structure, that's sacrosanct. And it's not, nobody's going to come in 2020 because of what happened in 1980 something and now change the history of over 1,000 years. That one is sacrosanct. But it's not about that. It's about priorities. Duplicating rules, trying to flex muscles on top of what? And when people say things about Kenyan Empire, the Oyo Empire ceased to exist in the 19th century. It ceased to exist in the 1800s. That was when Oyo Empire ceased to exist. And here's something to keep us humble. I'm going to find a way to say it as respectfully as I can. Empires rise and fall. So this is not to say that it has fallen. Ife also rose and fell. Britain rose and fell. Rome rose and fell. The Persian Empire rose and fell. Egypt, every empire will rise. America, it'll be like, say, it's inevitable. But here's the thing. Most empires, even when they fall, you can still see the people, you can still see the place where the capital of that empire, in most cases, you can still see it. E.g., the British Empire has ceased to exist for a long time. But England is still there, London is there, you still see the place. The Buckingham Palace is there, you can see what has happened, you can hear the stories. Someone says Spain fell, Portugal fell, they all fall. If you go to Spain, yes, there's no Isabella anymore, there's no Ferdinand, but Spain is still there. If you go to Rome, there's no Roman Empire anymore, but Italy is still there. If you go to Ife, there's no Ife Empire, but there's still Ife City. This empire you're carrying on your head, do you really know that the town that used to be the capital of the empire does not exist anymore? Is that not Orotokwe? By the way, this is not a jab at Oyo, it's a jab at Yoruba people. I was doing a study last week. I was studying, see, me, I like Oyo, because any glory of Oyo is our glory as Yoruba people. Any mistake of Oyo is for our lessons as Yoruba people. So me, I don't do all this, Kiniko is better than Kiniko. But here's the point, I was trying to confirm what Kubo said here when we're discussing capital. So I found the longitude and latitude, what do you call this thing? The GPS location. Coordinates. I found the coordinates of Oyo Katunga. So now inserted it to know what is there right now. It's a forest. It's a forest. So what your Bible should be discussing is what else can happen in that site apart from just it being there. The Fulani, the war that eventually destroyed Oyo before they moved to Igbo and eventually went to Agoja. Which, by the way, when I heard that story, when they said that Allah and Lotu left, I was like, how? Ajagungbade. Okay, we'll talk about that later. But here's the point. Ajagungbade is in Ogeje Kabis. Is all Showun Ajagungbade? Even if the Ajagungbade, the sighting of what we now call Ogumosho, it happened even before what's his name? Ogunlola. Before Ogunlola Biori Elemosho, there was a one shot before that happened. There was a settlement they already had. And you know the sad part? It is not that Oyo gave them land. It's actually that they gave... Where they are right now belongs to some people. And those ones I've spoken of, I won't play it today. Maybe another day. But the point is, when we think about Oyo Cartoon, I mean, you can find the coordinates. Maybe I'll put it in the Telegram channel. It's just bushes. What's there right now? Old Oyo National Park it spans Oyo and Kwara State. So the capital of the empire they're shouting, it's no longer even Kini, it's under the soil. Some archaeologists did some work there. It was last year or 2 years ago. It's a site. It's not like London that you can still go and find the exact places that Rome, even Greece, Alexander, even Greece that was before Rome. Please put up the keyboard. Even Greece that was before Rome, you can still find the Colosseum, find the Colosseum. Colosseum is Rome. You can still find the is it Acropolis? You can still find some sites. And if I mentioned Oketase earlier, the Oketase of Orunmila, I'm not making it up. When we want to discuss Orunmila, you will see how beautiful that stuff is. The Oketase of Orunmila is still there right now. There's a church, Ifa Orunmila, Ijo Orunmila, on that hill today. Okay, Getty, where Orunmila was born, is still there. Enuwa, the palace, is still there. So what exactly Kilongbein? You can't even point to the exact location. Instead of us to be having meetings and saying, you know what, as Yoruba people, regardless of your tribe, because we have many tribes in Yoruba land, regardless of your tribe, is that you know what? I actually started doing some studies on what can actually be done, because it's still in Oyo State, thankfully, and it's still in Yoruba land. Even if it's in Kwara State, it's still Yoruba land, and we've gone past, the Fulani wars. What can Yoruba people do to preserve that place and restore? Even if it's not, of course, you can't rebuild and whatever, but what can it's owned by the federal government now, by the way. It's federal government property, so to speak, because it's national park. It's like Yankari Game Reserve. It's now national park. But what do you have there? Animals, forest, and perhaps history, lurking under the laterite, beyond the laterite soil. That's the kind of questions we should be discussing, not all this thing about. But to be clear, you are a great grandson to Oni. Anybody that hates it, and some people say, well, you cannot talk. I will tell you, if you hate it and you don't want to support the live sessions again, God bless you. Thank you for all you have done for us. And if you change your mind, come back. If you want to go, Odabo. I'm not a slave to anybody's gift. I don't know how you are bold to speak on the rewriting of history by the Igbos, but you don't mind that other Yoruba groups can be rewriting Yoruba history and you're comfortable with it. How are we like this? It's like when Benin was doing their thing. You are angry that Benin is rewriting history, but you think it's okay to just say, let's just be quiet, it's Yoruba. That's not unity. It's what you are looking for is the peace of a graveyard. That's not peace, that's death. So there's no peace of graveyard. Everybody got up more a year. And if they like, they should do it for all this, we'll be reminding them. So they can come and bow to God. No. Meanwhile, there's a new development. I think it was early this year. Some people approached me. Some people approached me. Something that happened in the palace of the Alafi. I couldn't be bothered personally because, like I said, even if there's a mistake or whatever, I can't just turn on Oyo and say, oh, Oyo is not Yoruba, Oyo is king. By the way, maybe we'll have another session. Maybe we can still discuss it today if we have time. Who is Yoruba? Is it Oyo that is Yoruba, or whichever one? We can talk about it later. But we have to be careful with this whole thing about, I'm looking for a news item I want to read to you. I'm going to read that thing to you later. But what I'm saying basically is that what happened then is not something that I could be a part of, right? In terms of pushing it on social media, I say, oh, let's talk about it. Let's push it. Let's do this. Let's do that. Some things were offered, but I don't think I want to be, not even I don't think, I cannot be part of that kind of thing. However, there's somebody who doesn't care about my own qualms, doesn't care about my reasons for not wanting to be part of that, conversation. The person's name is Barrister Femi Falana, SAN. Falana has petitioned DSS over alleged palace torture, death of Oyotunji chief after visit to Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́. Ṣé kí ni orúgbó tó bá délé tán, àwọn tó yẹ ká sọ pé àwọn gbọ́dọ̀ ṣe báyìí fún kábíyèsí wa, everybody máa ṣí everybody sílẹ̀ ni because ẹni gbogbo wa ló ń rùn sí. I'll read the stuff to you. I've known about this thing for a long time. This is the first time I'm speaking about it. I've known about it for almost 1 year. I've never spoken about it in public. I'm only speaking about it right now because there's a news on it. So I'm reading the news, not the issue. I will try not to talk about the issue itself, at least at the moment. Falana petitions DSS. 1 second. Number one. Oh dear. That's Colinton Alaji Kevin Kwara. Kini ma hangi ba ya wori. Bola say bye. Yan so bad on there. Okay, good. We're good now. It's hanging. No, let me use another device. I don't know what's happening to this one. We shall read this news. Again, we're just reading the news. I'll try not to talk about the whole thing. Let's just find the news. This our device is not doing the I think it's overloaded. I'm opening a lot of tabs. Dark boy says KB. Yes, KB Kwara. I'll still be lying. The thing I remember, Jesus, the kind of things I remember sometimes, Anybody that knows that album would know exactly where I'm going with that thing. I will still be lying. Ẹkáàbọ news. Falana petitions DSS over alleged palace torture, death of Oyotunji chief after visit to Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́. In the petition dated September 22, 2025, and addressed to the Director General of the SSS, Falana accused the Aláàfin and his palace aides of subjecting the late chief and members of his entourage to severe torture that days later. Nigeria's foremost human rights lawyer, Femi Falana SAN, and his law firm, Falana and Falana Chambers, have petitioned the State Security Service over the alleged brutal assault and eventual death of Chief Lukman Suleiman Ojora Arunfale, the Baba Oba of Oyotunji village in the United States, following a visit to the palace of Abimbola Akim Owade. In a petition dated September 22, 2025, and addressed to the Director General of the SSS, Falana accused the Aláàfin and his palace aides of subjecting the late chief and members of his entourage to severe torture that allegedly led to Arunfale's death days later. The petition, written on behalf of Oladotun Ayodele, Adeola Ayodele, Dikpole Awoyemi, and Roslyn Ayoka Arunfale, stated that the incident occurred on April 17, 2025, when the group visited the Aláàfin's palace in Oyo Town, Oyo State. According to the lawyers, the visit was initially cordial until a disagreement arose over coronation practices in Oyotunji village, a Yoruba settlement domiciled in Sheldon, South Carolina, United States. The late Chief Aaron Fale reportedly explained that the Ooni of Ife had traditionally handled coronations in the community from its inception. Falana alleged that the response enraged the Alaafin, who reportedly accused the visitors of being liars, traitors, and spies sent to undermine him. The petition claimed that the monarch then ordered palace attendants to deal ruthlessly with the visitors. The lawyers further alleged that under the watch of the Alaafin, the visitors were violently assaulted. They claimed that mobile phones belonging to the victims were confiscated after it was noticed that one of them was recording the incident. The petition alleged that Chief Aaron Fale, described as elderly and frail, was beaten and pushed down a staircase during the assault. In what was described as an attempt to cover up the incident, the petition alleged that the Alaafin invited the Oyo area commander of Nigeria Police Force to the palace and directed him to arrest the victims for undisclosed offences. The victims were reportedly taken to the police office while bleeding and forced to write statements, despite, according to Falana, not committing any crime. The petition claimed that the victims were detained overnight and only released on April 18, 2025, after being compelled to write and sign a letter of apology to the Alaafin as a condition for bail. After their release, the victims reportedly sought medical treatment. However, despite receiving care, Chief Aaron Fale allegedly succumbed to his injuries on April 27, 2025. He said, quote, "In a desperate bid to cover up the torture meted out to our clients, the Alaafin invited the Oyo area commander of Nigerian Police Force to the palace and ordered him to arrest our clients for an undisclosed offense. The area commander arrested our clients, who were drenched in their own blood, and took them to his office, where he made them to write statements, even though they had not committed any criminal offense whatsoever. To our clients' utter shock, the area commander ordered their detention, even though they were suffering excruciating pains as a result of the gruesome assault to which they had been subjected at the palace of the Alaafin of Wade. The area commander compelled our clients to write and sign a letter of apology to the Alaafin of Wade as a condition for their release on bail on the 18th day of April 2025. Àbáyọ̀mí ta ló ń bá wí ní comment section. Mo mọ̀ ṣáà gbogbo èèyàn kan ló fẹ́ mi dénú, àwọn tó fẹ́ mi dénú mi ò kàn pọ̀ tó èmi gan mọ̀ wọ́n ṣáà máa wòran. You know what? Let's not read more of this thing because it gets worse. It's worse. I want to stop at that point. But I still don't want. I still don't feel comfortable reading everything. I'll just read the part because this was reported December 22nd, 2025 in Sarah Reporters, but it's something that Farhan has been working on since September. What I'm trying to say is this. If you want to understand how that thing happened, it is the continuation of Kollington's song you started. Mo ti gbàgbé party yẹn mọ́ bínú jàre. Ṣùgbọ́n òótọ́ ni nǹkan tẹ́ ẹ kọ́ ń bẹ̀ o, òótọ́ ni nǹkan tẹ́ ẹ kọ́ ní comment section. Gbogbo èèyàn kan ló fẹ́ràn dénú àìmọye àtútọ́ àfẹ̀jẹ̀sínú tútọ́ fún jáde. It gets worse, by the way, but the long and short is that the man eventually went back to the US and eventually passed on. So that was in April. So around May, June, thereabouts, I think it was May or June, some people reached out to me and I said not to take it up because he's a king, isn't it? And he's a Yoruba king. And I thought that it was something that was meant for the government, not to drag people. I'm not saying don't answer for it, but it's not about dragging, it's about what government should get involved in. So I'm glad that this is happening. That's the only reason I'm reading right now, because a lawyer is doing the right thing with the courts. I don't think it's good to bring that matter and be dragging a king in public space. But the reason I'm saying this is this. The reason that thing happened was that power tussle. They asked the man, according to reports, including what we just read now from Falana, that how do they do their coronation rites in that village in South Carolina in the United States? And they said they've always had the Ooni, installing their kings and stuff like that. And then they got angry. Why would you get angry? Why? Are you the one that went to create that place? Is it a colony of your town? Where is your town? Is your town where it used to be? How did you get where you're even living right now? Where is your crown? These are real issues. Why would you be angry that somebody is the pay obeisance or whatever to the Oni? Is it not your father? Should that not make you happy? So they switched, and that led to what they are alleging. It's still an allegation, by the way. I like to say that because for some reason I just feel that we still have to act as if it didn't happen, even though we know what happened. Anyway, people switched because they had a disagreement over, number one, we need to have a conversation. Son's grandfather, thank you for correcting me, Mr. Aleko. His grandfather. How did you even know how they created that Oyotunji in the US? How they moved, how they finally, chose this site, the town. And for them, in their mind, they're thinking Yoruba, Oyo, okay, Oyo was the empire at the time, was the latest empire. The father of Oyotunji is a black American, Miss Adeniji. Yes, he's not Nigerian. He's a black American. You know this, trying to recapture the essence and identity and all of those things. And of course, I mean, if you could be an empire or whatever, but the truth of the matter is that the one that will make that decision, I made that decision and say, you are the one that we are doing this for, you are the one we are submitting to. That gives you prestige, not that you now be saying, you must do it. Whoever is advising people in Oyo, please think of tomorrow and think of yesterday. Think of yesterday and think of tomorrow before you act today. Think of yesterday, think of tomorrow before you act. Because what I say, where it's going to end is that people are going to just, you will be the empire of your that space. Someone says perhaps the old Oyomesi need to do the needful. No, I can't say that one outside though. I can't read it. We have to be careful, Sha. May God help us. May God bless Yoruba land. May God bless Nigeria. May our land continue to make progress. And may our leaders, may God touch their hearts. May they see reason for growth and development rather than fighting for what they can never get. You can never. Ifani olukoluko ito ni. Ifani olukolukan koleto ni. Olu is Oluwa, king. Adakpe Oba Lolu. Olu of Ilaro, Olu of Wari. Ifani olukolukan ito ni. And to bade, a small time everybody be shouting that they're doing traditional religion. Do you not know that thing is inside Ifa? By the way, that is not a jab at anybody. It's just that even the basis of the Yoruba philosophy has that. And the concept of Olukoluko Ntoni is not even as religious as people may think. It's a political order. It's a political order. What that means is this. All the kings know the one at the top. But guess what? When you get to the top, the one at the top knows that is also answerable to some bodies. Like there is checks and balances at the top. So he is not absolute authority, but he's the one at the top of everybody, at the top of the pyramid. If you remove order, in the name of you found whatever you found, maybe it's money or your ego or whatever it says, if you remove order, whatever you found is what will kill you. Because now, where will your own order derive from? From yourself? Your power cannot derive from yourself. Enough said. May God bless our kings, right? May God bless them and give them, his wisdom, and our political leaders, everybody. But Yoruba, our history did not start yesterday, and Alaafin is not the leader of all of Yoruba land. He's the leader of Oyo. He's Alaafin of Oyo. There's no Alaafin of Yoruba land anywhere. And people want to keep shouting that Alaafin of Yoruba land, Alaafin of Yoruba land. I'll bring people up now. Maybe before we go, I'll read the treaty to you. You see what the British called Yoruba land. So if you want to stick to that, we can do that. I'll read it. The treaty is here. But let's have some people come up, and then I'm going to share more around. Please, as soon as you get up, please mute so that we don't have interruptions, and then we'll go one after the other. Okay? Thank you very much for listening. The other things we want to talk about Monday, what Chief Toladeni said about Iboku of 1966. I didn't say, excuse me, when he was saying it wasn't an Iboku, and he said some things. We're going to correct those things, maybe on Monday. But thank you very much for listening. Let's bring some people up to be part of the conversation. Please, when you come up, please mute so that we can, and then we'll call on you to speak. So the first person to speak would be...
Only stretching you doing is with that man.
TEA.
Told you do it. I
Please
tell
go on.
you to stretch. Please go on. Push. Or last time somebody told you to push this much, it was a bull.
Please, I can't hear you. Give me a second.
That's the little Bow Wow direct. You here looking like half an apple. Look, I look like a bro.
He probably wasn't trying to speak. Let's go to Dark Poet. Good evening, Dark Poet.
Good evening, Prof.
Hello, sir.
Ọjọ́ mẹ́ta.
Yes, sir.
Ṣé rí ẹ mọ̀ pé mo kọrin kan nígbà kan, màá tó tún kan ní alẹ́ yìí. Ẹni tí ò bá understand kó lọ gbọ́ kó mọ ìpìlẹ̀. Ó ní Ọ̀ṣun mọ́lẹ̀ Ifẹ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí ilé. Ògún mọ́lẹ̀ Ifẹ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí orísun. Ọ̀yọ́ mọ́lẹ̀ Ifẹ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí ìṣẹ̀dálẹ̀. Èrò ya Ilé Ifẹ̀, Ilé Ifẹ̀ o, Ilé Ifẹ̀, Ilé Ifẹ̀ orísun gbogbo Yorùbá ni. Mi ní sọ̀rọ̀ kan jù bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Ṣé rí mo dẹ̀ láìkì mo fẹ́ràn bí ọmọ Olúbàdàn náà bóyá nǹkan tó tí máa yẹn narrate, the way he was respectful all through his narration without insulting anybody. I so much love the way he was putting Babawa ilé Babawa kò rò pé bóyá because of rancor tó ṣẹlẹ̀ láàrin kó wá disrespect anybody. He so much diligently addressed what he want to address without being disrespectful, which is what a lot of people need to learn. Because when you like you said the other time, rightly said, nǹkan tí o mọ ìpìlẹ̀ tí o mọ bó ṣe kàn ẹ́ tó wá fẹ́ dá sí tó fẹ́ máa tẹ̀lé wọ́n dẹ̀ ní inú èdè wa náà wọ́n máa ní wọ́n tún máa ń lò ní oríkì àná ọmọ onílé àtẹ̀jẹ́jẹ́ àjèjì aṣekínni ẹ̀rù ẹ̀jẹ̀ ń dá yẹn dúró bẹ́ẹ̀. So màá hang up now for ẹni tó bá tó ní additional kìíní ẹ ṣe.
Eshango, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm trying to see if I can find that document that mentions the extent of, but to be honest, nobody has even brought it up, so maybe I'll just hold off on that until maybe somebody. But if you notice, what we're discussing here is not to put down any part of it, because this is, if you're a bad person and you put down one group, you also put yourself down. It's a bit tricky. How you have to be very careful with all these controversies, because like I always say, I think that all of us, and we're not lawyer, in the sense that lawyer, but if Oyo does something that is great, is Yoruba. If Oyo does something that is not so good, it's Yoruba. You can't say Oyo ni Kolosio. We also have to, we have to learn from it, of course. But I'm trying to see if I can find that document, but I hope I want to thank you for that. Let me see if anybody else is in the comment section. I'll bring up Comrade Marikini Katoshiton. Coming, are you there? Okay, maybe he's not there at the moment. I'll find it later though. It's one of those old stuff. It's a bit painful. I'll find it. All right. Conducive fún ọmọ náà. That's how M. Solomon decided to teach us new English. Kunduz. All right. It's past 8 already, and I would have said let's go to the next topic, but it's past 8. So I want to see if I find a document, I'll show you. If I don't, then we'll find it we'll discuss it some other time. Mambo, give me a second. If you give me a moment, I shouldn't say a second. It's going to be more than a second, but I think I can find it somewhere else. Okay. You are the one that we praise. Okay, this is good. Found it. Treaty between Adeyemi, Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́, and the head of Yoruba land, and Her Majesty, the Queen of Great Britain and Ireland. Ọ̀yọ́ is commonly known as the Yoruba Kingdom and embraces the towns of Ọ̀yọ́, Awe, Akínmọ̀rin, Ìlọ́ra, Ìṣẹ̀yìn, Pápá, Tèdè, and Sábè. We hereby further certify that the towns named in the margin are under the direct influence of the Balogun and authorities of Ibadan, and that the above enumerated towns and country of Sábè with their territories, also the towns detailed in the margin, represent now Yoruba proper, of which the capital is Oyo, with Adeyemi as the acknowledged Aláàfin or king over the whole. So, if people want to talk about, because I saw one person say, I told you, they told me that somebody said somebody is Aláàfin of Yoruba land. If you say Yoruba land, that's the definition of your Yoruba land. Because people also change definitions when it suits them. So in one breath, they're talking about all of us. Then there isn't the title of one part of us to be on top of all of us. Shelley. By the way, this was in 1888, 23rd July, 1888. And that's what our Scott Oyebode Ainde, Olaoye Ojo Aje Oduyele, accredited messengers from the Ibadan authorities. So at that time, you never reach Ibadan. And I'm never mentioning Ijebu or Ondo or Ekiti or Ilesha. Come to Adaro Kofe. Going to Owo Mabasho. Adafumugbo. Any other question? We might have to leave early today. That's a blessing. Sorry, someone is coming up. Hello, Bumblebee. Hello?
Can you hear me, Prof?
Can't hear you.
Hello, Prof. Can you hear me, Prof? Hello, Prof. Hello, Prof.
Hello, Chief. Please go on. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
I work on the background. There's a lot of noise in the background, but I can hear you. But Tabaliba, if you can help us reduce the noise in the background so we can enjoy your contribution. Yeah, we can make do with that. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much. So I just wanted to make a comment on the whole
I will.
as well. Is it better now?
Please, can you go a bit closer to your mic?
Okay. Is it better now?
You know, let's hear you out. Let's hear you out. The noise is too much, to be honest. But yeah, let's have you. Hopefully, we'll be able to endure. Angbo? What will be? The noise is too much. You have to speak out. You have to speak up. Like the mic is far away. The mic is closer to the noise than to your mouth. If you get what I mean. So you have to speak up, please. No, it's okay. But Sorosita. We can't hear you. Sorry, please. Sorry, please. No, that noise is too much, please. Please, maybe you go somewhere quiet and try again, please. Like the noise is a lot. It's too much. Thank you. But if you find a quiet place, then you can please, make your submission. By the way, let me thank everybody in the comment section. You got also 42.4k likes on TikTok, and you should be cheered. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support. Everybody who has liked and tapped and shared and commented, thank you very much for engaging on YouTube, on Facebook, and right here on TikTok. And thank you also for the gift. I noticed a lot of the gifts earlier. Thank you very much for your generosity. If you'd like to support what we're doing, please use the bank details on your screen. Let's be generous. It's a GT account, and I'll appreciate anything you send to support. We have the sessions every weekday, Monday to Friday. So we'll be here again on Monday at 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. And I'm sure we're going to have a great time together. Someone says it was the Alaafin that signed the Kiriji Treaty on behalf of Ibadan as their overlord. Evidence. Is it the one that was signed in Imesi? Is that the one that Alaafin went to sign? Or which one? Is it that one that is signed? You know what? Give me a second. Somebody said something. 1 second, please. Let me just number. And even if he signed on behalf of Ibadan, how does that make him the head of Yoruba people? Bro. Let's respond to that question and Fola Season is the head of Yoruba land. Okay. Wait though. Is that Kubo? Ha. I go on YouTube. YouTube. Sorry, this one is that Kubo? Ah. All right, I didn't know it was you. But let me read something to you from let's see if I can find it. Huh? Oh boy, this thing is not clear. Actually, both Alaafin and Ibadan authorities acted as distinct signatories to the agreement. Alaafin did not sign on behalf of Ibadan to end that 1886 peace treaty. I'm trying to read it, but can you Payne's Lagos Almanac of 1894. It says, whereas through the friendly mediation, this is September 20. In fact, this is September 2, 1886. Whereas through the friendly mediation of His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos, there's a treaty of peace, friendship, and commerce concluded between the Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́, the Ilugbo, the Abese, the Maye, the Agbakin, and the Ọ̀tún Baálẹ̀ of Ibadan. Can you clear? Let me see if I find that page. Number, let me look for number. I'll see if I can find that document somewhere else. I think it's here. Is it Pins amount? Is it 1886 or 1894? Remember, 1894. Okay. Once upon a time. Ah, oh boy, finding it. Why need Sheba and Senor? I like it. This seems like looking for a needle in the haystack. Oh, okay. No, it's not. There's a way. Umbo. Let me. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Let me stop now. I think there's a way. There's a way around it. Let's see if we can use that way. If not, I'm isolated. But both the Aláàfin and Ibadan people were represented in the signing of that treaty. Aláàfin did not represent Ibadan. So it says, once upon a time, Ibadan warlords determined who became a lawyer of Ọ̀yọ́. Now that's actually true. That's actually true. If you can get this document, you found what I'm looking for there. For some reason, this page. So I have different stuff to read this thing. This one is not clear. Umbo. 96. Okay, I found it. This is good. Whereas this is proclamation of peace between the Ibadan and the Ekiti Parapos at Kiji Messi. I think it's okay, Messi. Battlefield, September 2nd, 1886. Whereas through the friendly mediation of His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos, as understanding has been brought about and a treaty of peace, friendship, and commerce concluded between the Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́, the Balogun, the Abese, the Maye, the Agbakin, and the Ọ̀tún Baálẹ̀ of Ibadan, the Ọwá of Ilesha, the Ore of Ọ̀tún, the Ajero of Ijero, the Olójúdó of Ido, the Seriki of Ijesha, the Ọọ̀ni, the Balogun, the Ọbalúfẹ̀, the Ọbalọ́run, the Ọbàjíò, the Ajarowa, the Aróde, the Òrìṣànírè of Ifẹ̀, the Ogunṣúà, the Balogun, and the Ọ̀tún of Modakeke, and the Awùjalẹ̀, and the Balogun of Jebu. And whereas the said treaty has this day been ratified in our presence by the said signatories or representatives duly authorized in that behalf, and whereas due provision has been made by us after conference with the heads of the governments principally concerned or their representatives duly accredited to us for the complete fulfillment of the conditions of the said treaty. Now, therefore, we, special commissioners appointed by His Excellency the Governor of Lagos for the purpose of executing the said treaty in accordance with the provisions thereof, do hereby proclaim in the name of the signatories of the said treaty that peace has this day been established and shall henceforth continue forever between the signatories of the said treaty and between their respective peoples, dated at Kijimesi, Battlefield, this 23rd of September, 1886. Henry Higgins, Oliver Smith, signed Henry Higgins, Oliver Smith, Special Commissioners. So no, Aláàfin did not represent Ọ̀yọ́. Ọ̀yọ́ was there. Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́ was there. Balogun, Abese, Maye, Agbakin, and the Ọ̀tún Baálẹ̀ of Ibadan. They represented Ibadan in signing that Kiriji Treaty. It was not Aláàfin that did that. But what I just read right now is from a book called Payne's Lagos Almanac, 1894. With all due respect, some people are not all that. It's not like they represented Yoruba people in whatever. It's just Oyo was not on that demo. I hope with these few points of mine, we've been able to settle that one. So, thank you very much. But it doesn't change the fact that Oyo is a very important part of Yoruba land. But we should remember that, I mean, it may be 1886, but thankfully that thing was also documented. Thank you very much. Umbo. Even the Lagos treaties, the Agbakin, by the way, Maye, Agbakin, they're all of Ibadan. The Maye, the Agbakin, the Abes, the Otunbale, they are all of Ibadan. You know, all this while, Ogbo 18 Kini, Oyo, sorry, Ibadan did not have Olubadan. Ibadan had Bale. Up until colonization was going, get the point. So when you hear Otunbale is them. There are many treaties, and thankfully they're actually here. I'm seeing some other things, Seth. And the signature of all the people that you mentioned, let me read to you their names. Adeyemi Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́, Ajayi Balogun of Ibadan, Ọ̀ṣun Túnsì Máyé of Ibadan, Fìjàbí Abẹ́sì of Ibadan, Fájìmí Àgbákin of Ibadan, Tájò Ọ̀túnbálé of Ibadan, Agunlóyè Ọwá Iléṣà, Ọ̀kínbalóyè Òòrè Ọ̀tún, Oyínyọsóyè Ajírọ̀ of Ìjẹ̀rò, Ọ̀dúndún Ológùdú of Ìdó, Ògèdèngbé Sẹ́ríkì of Iléṣà, Dẹ́rìn, that's Dẹ́rìn Ọlọ́gbẹ́lá, that's Ọọ̀ni of Ifẹ̀, Awótíọ́ndé kò sámi lórí ẹ̀, that's Ọbalúfẹ̀ of Ifẹ̀, Ọbámúyìwá Ọ̀brẹ̀jìà of Ife, Akintola Obalọ́run of Ife. This was in all of the signature between June and July 1886. It was signature to Monkayo. Oshundulu Ajarowa of Ife, Jojo Arode of Ife, Aworinlo, Arison Ori of Ife, Oya Balogun of Ife, Ogunwole Ogunṣua of Modákẹ́kẹ́, Ṣòwò for Balogun of Modákẹ́kẹ́, Ayanileye for Ọ̀tún of Modákẹ́kẹ́, Aboki Awujale of Ijebu, Nofowokan Balogun of Ijebu, June 10, 1886. Signed, sealed, and delivered in the presence of the undersigned under the terms and conditions, and so on and so forth. The stuff is on. I'm just jumping, and maybe one day when we should discuss Kiriji. When we discuss Kiriji, we'll go deep into this. There's a book on Kiriji by Wale Ogunyemi. So maybe one of these is we should discuss Kiriji. Okay. One of these is we discuss. See, you know what Ibadan people are telling them right now? The very place where they are, how did they get there? I see what you're writing in the comment section, but I don't want to look for another document on that one. Although as I'm saying right now, I'm already looking for it. Anyway, the point is, Sha, that at the end of the day, Ombo. But I want to check something. I've got to praise, and I gotta get it out. I've got to praise me, Oh, this light. And that's the one I read earlier now. That's the one I read earlier. That's the treaty I read earlier. Number. That's the treaty I read earlier. Is of 1888. Oh no, Mokaleko. That's the one I read earlier. one more kale. So in that one, yes, that's on behalf of Ibadan. Ogba àwọn kí tó ń sọ yìí kò dé Jẹ̀bú o, kò dé Èkìtì o, kò dóńdó o, kò dé Ifẹ̀ o, kò dé Iléṣà o. Kọ́lọ́n ṣàmà ṣọ́gbó wa. Everybody there, calm down. Let's build Yoruba land, and everybody should stop all this. Someone says, new era on YouTube says, by the way, say Modake and Ife sacked each other 3 times. Only reason Modake could get away with it was because the Ife were blood relatives of Modake by intermarriage, and last they would have to make up. The arrogance that led to the collapse of Oyo. Yoruba are relatives of the Bariba, and the Bariba are related to the Mende tribe that are also in Mali. Oh, I see. Remember that Alafin's father too was supporting Azikiwe against Awolowo. That's true. That's Alafin Adeyemi the first. Then it says here, Alafin should be careful so we don't Milikayaton. Eliah. I'm not liar, but but thank you very much for your comments on YouTube, and let me also check Facebook to be sure if we have to see if we have anything that we're reading, and then we'll call it a day. See, Oyo is powerful. Oyo, to be honest, not so much of it was, but it still has a place in Yoruba history, and it's a place that we are proud of and that we celebrate. And we should continue to celebrate Oyo and every part of Yoruba land, right? It's Obu Ikunwa when we acknowledge the greatness of all the groups that make up Yoruba people. However, we should also not be blackmailed into accepting revisions or revisionism as the fact of history. That's all that is. I think there's one more person we're going to listen to. It's Prof. We'll have him and then we'll call it a day. Thank you very much for listening. Prof, where are you? I just accepted I can't find you again now. Sorry guys, I would like him to speak. Bumblebee, if you can, okay, I'm sending you an invite again, Bumblebee. Hopefully it's quiet where you are right now. You can contribute. Yeah, would have been lovely to hear him. It's been a minute. Anyway, if he comes back, but let me just thank everybody who was part of today's session. On Monday, today is 26, 7, 8, 9. So 29th on Monday, we'll continue from here, and then Tuesday 30, Wednesday 31. We'll take a break on 1st of January. Maybe not. But we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I was going to read from Facebook. Let me just quickly check. It says here, my own concern. So let me just go back a bit. Otumba Olusegun Ashaolu. Thank you. Or thank you. I really appreciate it. I mean, I'm wondering if I should read that thing out because it's wow, thank you. But I'm not a professor yet. But they say call me prof, but I still studying. Thank you. Olawale Yinka, great to have you join us on YouTube. Then Lawale Lori says, my own concern is letting a certain religious group impose their ideology to govern the Yoruba. The Yoruba has its own ideology embedded in Ifa and should be left sacrosanct to bring more damage than, should be left sacrosanct. Infusing a foreign religion or belief will infiltrate our originality and is going to bring more damage than goodies. I don't want to talk about this right now. That's another topic entirely. It's another topic entirely. If you're looking for a definition of secular state, secular not in terms of godlessness, but secular in terms of multi-religious entity or space, the answer will be Yoruba land, right? And we also have to be very careful. If you want to govern Yoruba land today, you're not going to govern it according to Ifa. I mean, some things that we say, it sounds nice. Our Lord did not build all the things they built because they were using constitution of Ifa. You will gain wisdom from the philosophy of our fathers, but that doesn't mean that you're going to collapse structure into a religious entity. Yoruba is not a theocracy. And if you're having conversations about structure and you're comparing Ifa and Christianity and Islam, that means you are thinking from a religious perspective. And that's the thing that a lot of us do. You think from a religious perspective. We're not thinking from a philosophical standpoint. The philosophy of the Yoruba people. When our action group, when they were doing all the things that they did, a lot of us have nostalgia for a past that never existed. You just long for times that never were. I mean, for times that never existed. Like you think about this particular time, but that time never existed, never was. But it's something that makes us just feel good if you really have this thing. You are also now imposing your religion on the others, if you're looking at it from that perspective. And that's on the basis of Yoruba spirituality. But this conversation, what you just did now is that you just model two things together. You're talking about politics and you brought in religion into it. And that's the mistake. It's the same thing with this Oyo Yoruba thing. You're also doing the same thing. If I mention Ifa, 9 times out of 10, I'm talking about the philosophy of Ifa. You are comparing it with religions, but you want people to think that you're thinking about it as a philosophy. We're not stupid. The first thing you have to do, and all of us, I don't know what happened. To be honest, I know what happened. It's a human thing. It takes a lot of work for you to be able to detach yourself from whatever you're doing in terms of religion and see the way society actually is. Most of us still see it the way it was shown to us. And this is not about colonialism. This is about even how we structure the place. And there's so many ways I can say it, but the best way to say it, and without being disrespectful to those who espouse that religious, ideal or whatever, or who take it as religion, is to say this, and I'll say it just one more time. Well, I'll still say it many more times, but at least for now, just one more time. What binds Yoruba together is identity. Yoruba is an ethnic identity and a nationality. It is not a spirituality. There's no Yoruba spirituality in terms of that binds all of us together. What binds us together is Alajobi. It's not that there's kiniko. It's Alajobi. And believe it or not, I say this with no sense of contradiction, with all sense of responsibility. Alajobi existed before Ifa. So that is what should all this anything just it is well. It is well. Someone says, my point is that an attempt to wipe out Ifa. Who is wiping out Ifa? You are afraid of what is not happening. Who is wiping out Ifa? The most research in Ifa has been done by Christian priests in Yoruba land. I think Muslims and traditional worshippers, something happened between those groups in the last 5-6 years. And what really happened is that many of the Muslims moved into traditional worship and they started doing it, and they are now beginning to fight the Muslims that are still there, but they're using the Muslim way of fighting them by declaring everything jihad and fight. When you say they want to eradicate Ifa, who is eradicating Ifa? And how are you preserving it? It says the demonizing our own to promote theirs is dangerous. Who? Let me tell you some authors of Ifa books. Professor Wande Abimbola, and Baba Fayeme Lebuibo, William Bascom, who is white. But the first book on Ifa that was written by E.M. Lijadu. He was a reverend. And that was written by Reverend Adegbola. This was after Bascom Bascom was 69. Adegbola was 76. Lijadu was in the 1920s. I was the Emmanuel. This is a Christian and a doctor. You know the thing, we say these things, but okay, let me ask you, do we even study this? If that everybody shout, have you studied it before? There's a fantastic author, by the way, who has compiled some, verses. Ayo Salami. Do we even study this thing? Do we know it? Do we even know it? Have you ever studied? Have you ever read? I can recommend some books, but have you ever read? This is the first thing that you're talking. Have you read it before? Or have you met any Babalawo? Have they taught you anything about this thing? What are we fighting for? Do we even know what we are fighting for? Who is demonizing it? Who is demonizing it? I see have a paper I read. It's inside. Zonorimila. The man who did it is also a priest. He published it last year. I'm not saying people trying to force Christian ideas onto Ifa. I'm saying, see, our backgrounds are different apparently. One of the lecturers in my building when I was in school was Baba Elesomi, Reverend Father Elesomi. I've not seen any human being. I'm not saying they don't exist too. I've not seen anyone that can only Sunjalato, Reverend Elesomi. Elesomi Mo Ierefa was a Reverend Father, but wasn't Yoruba in OAU. Nife. Please study these things. Man, you'll be shocked. In that space, we don't even care about your religion. We don't care. And the point is, most of us, as we have not studied this thing, but we are fighting tooth and nail. They must not. Okay, this one that you are saying they should not. Okay, not you now. I'm not doing. Thank God, I'm not even mentioning you. So no, I'm not mentioning your name now. So nobody will know that I'm talking to you. But when people push this, I always ask them to conquer SFA, SODUFA, conquer SFA, conquer be. Let's not be doing it based on fight. We are all Yoruba people, and if a Yoruba person doesn't believe in the fight, they doesn't believe in it. What is important is the philosophy that is contained in there, as far as all of us are concerned. And guess what? Whether you believe it or you don't, we are all using that philosophy as Yoruba people. We use it every day. And when you study it and you see what we are doing, that's when you're like, oh, so the things that our fathers have been doing is based on this particular thought process. Oh, I see it now. It's not, if it's your religion, that's fair. I mean, you can do that. But these conversations, if you're talking about politics and you're bringing religions, you cannot switch if how to become philosophy anymore. You have to stick to that religious argument and you will lose. Why? Because Yoruba people don't have theocracies. And that's why when I heard what people were saying that when they have Yoruba Kinikon, they will have theocracy to be Kinikon Yoruba like Nibo. It is well. And when you say they're demonizing it, people can do whatever they want to do. Study it. You too, let us study it. And when I came here to study it with people last year, the people that are doing this rational algebra are the ones that were cursing me out. And all of them, without fail, just about every one of them was ignorant. Just about every single one of them. What I was talking about, they said it does not exist. Meanwhile, that thing exists. And I've said it before. Me, I cannot sit under Baba Awishe. I wish Agbaye, Wade Abimbola, Konki SFA, Konki Odufa, King Bo. I'll now be on social media. Someone now come on social media and telling me that he's wrong. And the person doesn't know half of. I'm not saying that he's talking about his opinion. No. His opinion, you can have an argument with his opinion. But young KSFI is like reading, it's like I come around and I read Isaiah 53 to you and you say it doesn't exist. Meanwhile, you have never read Genesis. You've never read one book in the Bible and there are 66. And the man who has read all the books is quoting Isaiah 53, for instance, I'm using as an example. Then you say, no, it doesn't exist in the Bible. And you think I will take you seriously. But of course, I would believe that you're not serious. I will take Baba Aoishai. And if you notice, when if I talk about the authorities in that field, not from the Christian perspective, but from a Yoruba perspective, these things are maybe they're a bit difficult because of how we've always understood it, but we'll get there together. Okay, we'll do it together. We'll learn together with respect to those with due respect to those who are traditional worshippers. But we as a people, religion is not our identity. Again, religion is not our identity. Religion is something we do, it's not who we are. Identity is about being. Religion is about doing. Religion can contribute to your being, but your being is larger than the faith, although the faith is part of it. But it's what you do, what you believe, what you do. It's not what you are. Please. Thank you very much. I know where you're coming from, but please, we'll learn together. Okay, there's so much to learn, and by the grace of God, we will learn together. And our fathers have done a fantastic work. We'll be discussing it as time goes on. Thank you very much for being part of this session. Ooh-wee. We said they did not have a problem with the traditionalists. I think they do. Who is that? Adetunji Obe. I think they do. Mass Tuition says, should we do a session on E.M. Lijado's books? I'm trying to see which one to start with. He has two books. One is Orunmila, the second one is Ifa. And thankfully, we have those books. Dr. Bosede Emmanuel has translated them into English. Can we have? Yeah, we can. We can. We can. But again, to make it clear, when I have that kind of session, I'm having a philosophical conversations. Anybody that wants to do religion, is not. I'm a Christian, but I'm a Yoruba man. And Omoluabi does not have any religions attached. If you're Omoluabi, you're Omoluabi. So, but people don't know that Omoluabi thing is also connected to Yoruba philosophy. And Yoruba philosophy is contained, again, just think about it as, again, if you're a religious person, if you're a traditional worshipper, I get what you are doing, and that's good for you and those who believe in it. Just like I'm not going to tell you that Jesus is the base of our faith, of our philosophy. The point I'm trying to say is that when we have these conversations, you can look at, this will help everybody. This will help all of us. And when the time comes when we have that conversation, you'll remember this. Oh, this is what we're going to do. Before we have a conversation, we're first going to read the book by Sophie Oluwole, Professor Sophie Oluwole, Socrates and Orunmila, two patron saints of classical philosophy. We have to read that book before we read Lijado's book. We must. We have to. So we'll read that one. And it will ground us in the humanity of Orunmila. And then we now proceed into stuff. So when you are grounded, again, if you're spiritual, if you're a traditional worshiper, it's okay, but that's not the point. Once you are grounded in the humanity, when you begin to talk about him, you begin to hear him. Again, I did some philosophy in school, so we heard about Aristotle and Plato and Socrates. That's the same way I see Orunmila. But that does not mean, a very good example. Where you want to lay? Give me a favor. Do me a favor. It's 9:01. I think I can still do a few minutes. Let me read something to you. Give me a second, please. I want to get I want to get a book. I want to read something to you. I think it's going to help us with this conversation, but it will be very short. Mombo. Oh, you're long. Oh, you're long. I'm going to find that page. Is what I don't know right now, but this book is big. God is good. I found it. This is a polymath in transit, a biography of Tunde Adegbola. Let me read some shit. In many fields, Yoruba culture, tech, software development, you know. Let me some to you. If Pythagoras, okay, let me start from here. Throughout history, many discoveries have emerged from examining ancient knowledge. Take the Pythagorean theorem, for example. It is one of the 17 equations that changed the world. In fact, it ranks as number 1. If Pythagoras were Yoruba, he would have likely been seen as a babalawo, a wise scholar and seeker of knowledge. He had 2 types of followers. The akuzmatakoi, these were the religious devotees, listeners who revered Pythagoras as a spiritual leader. Then he had the mathematikoi. These were the learners who extracted and developed the mathematical principles from his teachings. Over time, these 2 groups evolved into separate schools of thought. The akuzmatakoi focused on the ritualistic and mystical aspects of Pythagoras' teachings. The same Pythagoras theorem that we use. So we're talking about the man. He's a philosopher and also a spiritual leader, depending on how you see him. Oh dear. This is about to go off. Mumbo, let me switch audio. Please power tap on TikTok. Oh, we're almost done. I just want to read something and hopefully to help us. Please power tap on TikTok. This is showing activity. TikTok is just messing up. You did not hear the last 3 minutes. It's TikTok. The main device, apparently, the battery is down, so I can't keep. The second one, TikTok is misbehaving. So let's. What was the last thing you heard? What was the last thing you heard? I want to tell you something I've probably never said here before, and we're not so many, so it's good. I want to tell you, I think one now 58 or 58 here. We're about 15 there now. So okay, I want to tell you something. How I view all these things. Okay, you've not heard me from when I returned from the book. Abba Ibo Jinoju. Abba. Are you? Hello, can you hear me? Is it clear? Is this clear? Hello? Is it noisy? Is it noisy or is it clear? Is it clear? It's clear, Abi? Okay, Mambo. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Is it better now? What I wanted to read is actually quite important, but it's better. Okay. What I want to read is quite important, but holding earpiece like this is not going. I won't be able to concentrate. It's distracting. But it'll probably just be a few minutes and then we'll call it a day. Mambo. Sheko Paro, is it noisy? Okay. It's good, Abby. Is it good? Are we good? We're good. Okay. So let me just read. I'll just read something, yeah, and then we'll continue from here. But it's actually something very personal to me, by the way. What I want to read is a bit personal. All right. So this book is there is background noise. Ikolama Mumbeo. Ikolama Mumbeo. There is unless you want to charge, you want to maybe wait for the phone to charge so that I can use the mic. Because if I touch anything right now, it's not going to work. Don't worry, I'm still going to read this book another time. I'll read it again some other time. But I just want to make a point, and I think it's important for us to see things from this perspective. So this book is called A Polymath in Transit, the biography of Tunde Adegbola. Dr. Tunde Adegbola is someone you should know. I've played some of his videos here before. He's a man of many parts. He's a linguist. He's an engineer. He's into broadcast media. He's Yoruba culture enthusiast. He's also a cultural activist. Like he's a man of many parts, and there's a lot on Yoruba. But the way I think in terms of Yoruba philosophy is very similar to the way he thinks. And one way to understand it is when you study the works of Pythagoras, it helps you understand why I think the way I think about faith, and why I keep saying Yoruba people should look beyond religion. It's not because I don't believe that people should be able to follow whatever they want to follow whatever you want to follow. But as a generality, the rest of us can decide not to look at things from a religious perspective, and I think it's going to help us. But let me read to you something from this book. It's called A Polymath in Transit. It's a biography of Dr. Tunde Adegbola. Throughout history, many discoveries have emerged from examining ancient knowledge. Take the Pythagorean theorem, for example. It is one of the 17 equations that changed the world. In fact, it ranks as number 1. If Pythagoras were Yoruba, he would have likely been seen as a babalawo, a wise scholar and a seeker of knowledge. He had 2 types of followers. The akosmatakoi, these were the religious devotees, listeners, who revered Pythagoras as a spiritual leader. Then the mathematikoi, these were the learners who extracted and developed the mathematical principles from his teachings. Now, those words are Greek, apparently, akosmatakoi and mathematikoi. Over time, these 2 groups evolved into separate schools of thought. The akosmatakoi focused on the ritualistic and mystical aspects of Pythagoras' teachings, while the mathematikoi concentrated on the scientific and the mathematical concepts. This distinction between listeners and learners is not unique to Pythagoras. It is a fundamental pattern in human behavior. We see the same thing today with religious studies. Not all Bible scholars are Christians. In fact, some professors of theology may not even believe in God. They study religious texts as an academic pursuit without necessarily following the faith. The listeners embrace the rituals. The learners focus on routines. One follows belief, the other follows method. Dr. Tunde aligns himself with the mathematikoi within the Yoruba knowledge system, meaning he approaches it with analytical rigor rather than religious devotion. His fascination with Ifa is a manifestation of his deep respect for Yoruba knowledge traditions. To ignore the insights within this system, he argues, is to desecrate the work of our forebears, those who painstakingly developed and refined these understandings over time. We'll go more into this book some other time, but he's one person I look up to, and we think the same way on this matter. As far as Yoruba, I'm not used to holding this thing. We'll go deep into this another time, right? But that man, the Dr. Adegbola, is one man I look up to, and we'll read more of these things later. But here's the point. I've said it several times. There are professors of theology who are atheists. I know one professor of the New Testament is a Muslim. He looks at it from an academic standpoint, not from a religious standpoint. But here's the point. Pythagoras had 2 schools right, or two groups of learners. They eventually became two separate schools of thought. Let me read the name again. Timothy Padisha. The acousmaticoi and the mathematicoi. The acousmaticoi were people who thought of things from a religious perspective. They think of the rituals, the observances. That's what they did. Then you had the mathematicoi. Those ones were more about the mathematics, the science, the equations. They were thinking more of the practical usage of his thoughts. The other ones were thinking about the spiritual thing. The conversation here is not to say one is better than the other. It's to say that the only one that can bring your Bible together is the mathematicoi. Where those who want to be acousmaticoi can do what they want to do and look at things from a spiritual perspective, and that's okay. But those who want to look at things from what is the philosophy of this man, you see this thing with Pythagoras, you see it with Confucius. You see Confucius, right? You can have Confucianism as a religion, but you can also teach Confucian philosophy as a Chinese person. Most Chinese people will tell you that at the core, at the root of whatever Chinese is doing, China is doing, even Singapore, at the root of that is the Confucian philosophy. It doesn't mean that the person, in fact, if you study the history of Confucianism, let me put it this way, a particular group of people that helped push Confucius philosophy at some particular period in China were Buddhist monks. They were Buddhist in their faith, but they were Confucian in their philosophy. Of course, they will also have Buddhist philosophy, but the point is that they were Chinese, so they pushed that Confucian philosophy. But some people will say, want to have Confucianism as a religion. That's okay. But you cannot tell them to come and do religion. They will not listen. You cannot tell the Buddhist monks to come and do religion. They won't listen to you. But if you talk about the philosophy of Confucius, we're all together. The same thing Pythagoras. And someone wrote the first dictionary in Arabic language was written. Even the first Quran in English language was written by a Christian. The first Quran in Yoruba language was written by a Christian, Reverend Cole, in Yoruba. After he published his own Quran, a Muslim published a Quran in Yoruba language, but people preferred the one that Reverend Cole did, because Reverend Cole translated from English to Yoruba. The Yoruba Muslim was trying to translate from Arabic to Yoruba, and he made some mistakes. So they still embraced Reverend Cole's translation of the Quran, and it was a reverend. The point is, this platform is more about academic rigor and intellectual conversations than when it comes to this conversation, it's not so much about religion. Do your religion, shall I'm a Christian, by the way. I say it 1 billion times. I'll forever be a Christian. That's my spirituality, 100%. But here's the point. As far as this thing is concerned, it's like studying Pythagoras. You don't have to go to Pythagoras' shrine to use Pythagoras' theorem. It's from the same man who had the devotees or a following of devotees who thought about him from a religious perspective and observed the rituals and all of those things. They were called, the word again, acousmaticoi. And the other ones, like those of us who are using Pythagoras' theorem, for us, it's just mathematics. If the people in the science, the one that are worshiping now say, because you are doing math, you must do this one, they are deceiving themselves, because I will use Pythagoras' theorem, but I don't have to go to Pythagoras' shrine. And the question is, if I ask you right now, which one has impacted the world beyond Greece? The rituals or the mathematics? It's the math. It is well. We'll have more conversations on this. I want to thank everybody who was part of this conversation. I'm not used to holding this thing, so it's feeling somewhat. But thank you very much for being here, and thank you for your support. We're going to have a session on Orunmila. I'm going to use the book by Professor Sophie Olowole, Socrates and Orunmila, two patron saints in classical philosophy. When you study that book and you understand this thing I just read now about Pythagoras, your mind will be free. Your mind will be free in your relationship with the greatest philosopher from our own part of the world. The same way Greece has Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, we have Orunmila. but I'm not talking about the religious formula that people are shouting. That one, with all due respect, they can do that with the divination system or with the religious bit. But I'm talking about his teachings, his philosophy, and we'll discuss that in the coming days. But we'll continue where we stop now. We'll continue on Monday at 4 p.m. if for a time West African time. We have to call it a day right now. It's 9:23. Someone's trying to come up. Sorry, it's late. It's too late now. So, yeah, thank you very much for being part of today's session. We'll go listen to the Nigerian anthem and the Yoruba anthem, and then we'll close for today. Please join us on Monday at 4 p.m. if for a time West African time. Okay? I'm trying to get you. You may have questions, don't worry. We'll talk about it when we go deeper into what I... But think about what I just said right now. You can research on Pythagoras, the Acousmaticoi, the Mathematicoi. Research that. Research, Confucius and Confucianism. It's the philosophy and the religion. And hopefully it will help us in our own understanding as Yoruba people as well. You know what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to reclaim our philosophy, our heroes, our ancestors. One group sees them as like negative energy, like they've demonized them. One other group thinks that the only thing about them is divinity, is they have spiritualized them. Everything is mystical. Both groups are wrong. You have to be able to approach your ancestor is somebody that gave birth to somebody that gave birth to somebody that gave birth to you. It's in your family. I don't know. Like you can learn from them. You can be inspired by them, just like you can be inspired by Awolowo. You can be inspired by these great ones without having to toe the religious path. And this is the evolution that comes with. Shall we say we went to school, Abi? This is how we show that we went to school. Someone says Romans 10 verse 9, if you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart, amúni bú ni ẹran bí ẹn gbogbo yín. Ṣé mi tí mò ń sọ̀rọ̀ mo mọ̀ pé Christian ni àbí? Why is everybody thinking religion? Oh God. Let's just close, I beg. Here's the Yoruba anthem and the Nigerian anthem. We'll start with the Nigerian anthem first, please.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. ìṣọ̀kan àtòmìnira ni ẹ jẹ́ ká máa lépa tẹ̀síwájú fọ̀pọ̀ ire àtòhun tó dára. Ọmọ òdàdìde bọ́ sípò ẹ̀tọ́ rẹ̀. Ìwọ ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ gbogbo adúláwọ̀.
Àwa ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ ògo adúláwọ̀, ìmọ́lẹ̀ wo ni wọ́kùn lágbó. Nàìjíríà náà ò ní bàjẹ́, ilé wa, ọ̀nà wa kò ní bàjẹ́. Ọdún tó dẹ̀ lọ sópin yìí, Ọlọ́run fi ṣọ́ ẹ̀ṣọ́ wa, nǹkan bí wọ́n kò ní ṣẹlẹ̀ sí wa, a ní gbọ́ ìròyìn ìbànújẹ́ gbọ́ròyìn ìbànújẹ́ láti ilé àtàwọn ilé náà, a ní gbọ́ ìròyìn ìbànújẹ́ sí ilé wa, ọ̀nà wa Ọlọ́run bá a tó. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ò ní bàjẹ́ o, pẹ̀lú gbogbo nǹkan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ pé orúkèrúdò yìí kò sí kankan tó máa ba ilẹ̀ Yorùbá jẹ́ lágbára Ọlọ́run. Everything's gonna work out well for us in Jesus' name. Audio is fine. I know this audio has to be fine.
This audio.
If you're just joining, don't worry, it will work. If I remove this audio, it's gone here. But thank you very much for being part of today's session. It's been lovely. Do have a okay. God bless you. God bless you too. God bless you too. God bless you. God bless all of us. And akupalemo ọdún abalaye abalaye wa. Wọ́n ní fẹ́lòmíì ṣe wa o. Ọlọ́run fún wa ní ẹ̀bùn ọdún. Whatever you have in your heart that you're trusting God for, I pray that God will satisfy you right before the end of the year. The rest of the year will be your best. In Jesus' name. Thank you very much for being part of this session. I'll see you on Monday at 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. Have a lovely weekend and see you then. Odaro. God bless.